Here I am, but I'm gonna rock me like a hurricane. Here I am, but I'm something something hurricane. I forgot the words to the song. Wong. Dude, I gotta change where all my posters are. This shocker poster right behind me. I'm gonna move it over here. I'm gonna move it over here. This poster is going to go right over here. Then the communist one, right? The communist one is going to move right above my head. And then the Canadian one is going to go right over there. No. Canadian one, right over there. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do all of that. We're going to make all of that happen, right? Testing. Evening, comrades. Testing. 1, 2. Testing. That guy, good to see you again, my man. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Glad you're here, my man. I've got good news around the board for myself personally. My workplace has finally said, you know, John, you've been saying it'd be great if you could come in and work just a 10-hour day, 3 10-hour days. 3 10-hour days. And that's what's going to happen. I'm going to start working 3 10-hour days for Capital. And then subsidizing the rest of the income with what you guys help me out with. I just got a roommate in. And today was a brilliant day because I actually managed to finally finish off all the setup in here. Today I'm going to get everything set up. All the clutter is going to be gone. Everything's going to be gone. My room will be nice and clean, decluttered completely, and I'll be able to live my life. Yeah, we're heading into some good stuff here. And then on top of that, because the business I work for is going into renovations, I'm actually going to get laid off for perhaps 2 months. January and February. And I'm going to apply for EI. Going to take a break, take some vacation. Probably not a break from you guys, although I am planning to go home to Manitoba for a little period of time, so that probably will happen. Feels good. Feels good that there's some positive things. It feels good that there's some positive force happening in my own personal life. That as our society decides to collapse downwards into fascism, this little communist is having his material conditions improved slowly and steadily. Good to see you, Led. Good to see you. So, let's begin, shall we? Here's the craziest moment that happened all week, as far as I'm concerned. And there's more than one. Isn't this the best? I remember living in a period of time where, like, crazy things would happen, like, every so often. That every so often someone would pop up and say, like, hey, did you hear? That the crazy things that used to happen would be, like, policy decisions that were made on kind of a deeper level that you'd have to kind of scry or understand or like try to describe or explain to people. But now it's just on the surface and it's happening all the time. It's just constant. Elon Musk announces users will be suspended for tweeting from the river to the sea in support of Palestine. He claims the phrase implies a genocide. So Mr. Free Speech, right? Mr. Hey, everyone should be allowed to say the N-word, right? Is banning people from his platform for saying from the river to the sea. So, it is official, everyone. Ding, ding, ding. It has officially happened. Supporting a genocide is free speech, right? If you want to support the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians, that's free speech and that's your God-given right. You have the right to say what you would like. You live in a free country. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America. You're allowed to support whatever genocide you would like that is actually happening. But if you defend the people who are being genocided, right? If you defend the people who are experiencing the genocide and the victims of genocide, then that's genocide. Right? This is the world we live in now. That it doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to make any sense. That the people who are in power are fascists, nakedly so. They are incoherent. What they do makes no sense. And soon they're going to stop pretending. Right? Very straightforwardly. And in fact, you can start to see reverberations of that very thing happening in Argentina. You can start to see how the ruling class is beginning to essentially take the mask off entirely and simply rule openly. That Argentina, from the American perspective, is slightly removed, but Javier Milei is coming to America. That people like Javier Milei and the way that he thinks and the way that he operates and what he does, these people already exist in America. You could take a look at someone like Dan Crenshaw, for example, right? And very slowly, these people are the people who are going to take power. People like Lauren Boebert, right? Boobs and ridiculous people, Marjorie Tyler Greene, absolute clowns, right? Total clown shoes people are going to begin taking serious positions of power. And their clownishness is going to become very dark and sinister indeed and very fast. Pays to remember, well, I suppose it doesn't pay, but I guess it helps to remember that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were considered a joke throughout Germany until they took power, and then they became very serious indeed. Resist Occupiers on Twitch, good to see you. Millie is such a joke, and we are all the butt of that joke. Certainly. Certainly, indeed. His hair is a cross between Trudeau and Boris Johnson. Very dreamy. Very dreamy. Ligand Z, good to see you, my man. Good to see you today, my man. Yeah, we're all gathering today to watch the unfolding absurdity. Like, I used to see it as a tragedy, but it isn't. It isn't a tragedy at all. It is a comedy. I'm not much of a comedian. Like, I don't think I'm much of a comedian. My spirit rests in other places. I don't think I can make this subject funny, and I don't try to. Guy dressed up as an ANCAP Loki. Conton, good to see you, my man. That's very funny, looking to see. But but I can recognize the absolute absurdity of all of this and how ludicrous it is. That the things that I've been saying and I've been thinking throughout the week have basically been like, you are not obligated to follow any rules or laws. None exist, and it's very clear that they don't. That there is a group of people with weapons who are hired to protect people with power. And those people are going to say, these are the rules and the laws because we wrote them down. But you're under no obligation to follow them or pay any attention to them. Just me, good to see you. Scream actress fired from the upcoming Scream 7 for pro-Palestinian tweets. Yep. Like, it's just the blacklisting, right? This is the blacklisting. Very straightforwardly. There's no reason to pretend like it's anything else. Like, we are a parody society. We are the parody of a society. That if you were to actually tell a story or film a movie or do any kind of media where this society was prominent within the story, no one would believe it. No one would buy into it. everyone would be like, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Like, a bit silly, don't you think? A bit outrageous. They would call it something like satire. They would say, oh, you're being satirical or all this. And it's like, no, this is literally what it is. And you wouldn't need to make it grotesque. You wouldn't need to make it worse than it actually is, right? You wouldn't need to lampoon it. You could just take it and put it in front of people and show them, and they would think, this is an absurdist comedy. This is a parody. Like if Rick and Morty were to suddenly come out of portals and look at what was going on and comment on what was happening, everyone would be like, yeah, that fits, right? Sort of a joke society made by comedians in order to tell fart jokes, basically. And I think a big reason, one of the things I'm kind of coming to grips with as we're all collectively experiencing this, is the recognition and the realization that most people can't take one step back and see themselves within the organization that they are in, and let alone the organization within the society that they are in, right? That most people see out of their eyes, and that's the level of perception that they're running through. And that's not without, I'm not saying that with malice. I think that is what happens to people, that we're not trained to reach a sense of our meta selves. We're not trained to view ourselves within the structures we are in. We're not trained to analyze the structures that we are in. We're not trained to understand what those structures look like within the society and to create a meta map or an understanding of what is happening above our level of consciousness or our level of immediate sensory reality that I see through my eyes, I hear through my ears, and what I see and what I hear is the end of reality. And that we don't need to extend that through our imagination or through our ability to exist within an abstract space because it's not beneficial to the money dollars that don't exist. Like, this is the level of the society that we live in today, and there are going to be pretty major consequences. And the most major, like, even if the society actually had people whose job it was to understand things on this meta level, right? Like, if you are a capitalist, if you are a person at the highest level of the society, like a Warren Buffett or a Bill Gates, you certainly understand because you own it, right? Because you own it. It's a possession. You own the society. And so you have a meta perspective of that society because you're the owner of that society. But if you're a worker, you've got to kind of work on the idea that, oh, what's it like to actually, what are these structures? How do they actually work? And if you do that honestly, you become a Marxist. Because to actually take a look at the actual structures and the actual society as it actually is and use evidence and historical analysis, well, that's Marxism. And that's what we're doing here. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? Content. I had to knock down, drag out argument with an anarchist friend who supports the Ukraine and is critical of Israel. The place he gets his information, geez. Yeah, I mean, I just think that people get caught in the Russia bad idea. Russia is also imperialist, you know. Ukraine is fighting for its freedom, which is why it supports Nazis. Like, it's sort of like the Israel one is harder to justify. Like, you've really got to be on the side of capital. Like, you've got to be like full-blown fascist at this point to actually stand up and say, yeah, what's happening in Israel is fine. The Israelis are just defending themselves, right? That's clownish. Like, that is cartoon brain all the way. That if you watch 10 minutes of Abby Barton's Gaza Fights for Freedom, you can no longer hold that position credibly. Like, I'm sure people do because there's lots of clowns in the world, but the idea that a city of primarily children is at all a threat, meaningfully at all, to the largest superpower on the planet funding cities and organizations and militaries within the Middle East, it's a total joke. Like, this isn't like the Maze Runner, right? Teenagers running around doing things is not a credible threat to the power structure. I know that your little teen drama movies, and I know that like all of these what is it? What are some of these? I'm completely blanking on all of them the second that I need to talk about them. Maze Runner's a good one. Mockingbird, that whole thing, the trilogy, that thing that what's her name was in. Like, teenagers are not going to storm into Israel unarmed with bows and arrows and kill Netanyahu and overthrow the system. Like we don't live in a teen drama movie, right? Like those were books that were written by adults to sell to teenagers for money. Don't base your political ideology on them, right? Look at the world like an adult and understand that a city full of children, that's mainly children, is not going to be able to launch a successful genocide against a major world superpower. And the idea, like, maybe you should start asking yourself, man, why do they keep like squalling against us as we ethnically cleanse their hospitals and their families? So the Israel situation has gotten very black and white in a very straightforward sort of way, because there is no excuse for what the Israelis are doing. Like, so what if on October 7th some of the people, Hamas came and killed a bunch of people in Israel? So what? Like, so what? It doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. The Israelis are currently bombing hospitals. The Israelis are currently bombing schools. The Israelis are currently ethnically cleansing the society. They have said so. Right? Who gives a shit what happened on October 7th? It doesn't matter. Oh no, some people died. Okay. This is like saying some black teenagers went into a Walmart and killed 3 people, so it's okay to bulldoze the ghettos. Like, this is what they are saying, and this is what they are doing. And anybody who's going to stand up and actually defend this, we can safely call a Zionist, a Nazi, a fascist. Right? These are the same. These are the same. And I say safely because we can. That they are within the definition. Not only are they within the definition, they would be the picture that we would put beside the definition as an example of it. Just take Ben Shapiro's face, put it beside fascist, and you're exactly in the right territory. Like, perfectly done. Good evening, Tinker. Good to see you, too. Radio Halifax, absolute pleasure to see you. Susan Sarandon was also dropped as her talent agency for Gaza. Truth tweets, yeah. Maya K, also dropped by Playboy. Yeah, there's lots of examples. About a week ago, last week, I think at some point, I read an article on the stream where we talked about this very thing. Like, it's a blacklisting. Like, it's another McCarthy blacklisting. If you stand up and say out loud, hey, maybe we shouldn't commit a genocide in Palestine, you get blacklisted. Ben Shabiba was giddy over Millie. I mean, look, here's what this guy's going to do. Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, has announced his intention to eliminate a slate of major government ministries, including health, transportation, women, education, science and technology, labor, and environment. He's eliminating these ministries. Do you understand what that means? Like, do you understand what it means to eliminate the Ministry of Health? Do you understand what it means to eliminate the Ministry of Labor? Do you understand what it means to eliminate the Ministry of Education? Like, this means that all of these ministries and the things that they were responsible for are going to be privatized. They are going to be sold to private capitalists like BlackRock. That's what's going to happen. Who are then going to withhold these things unless you pay for them. It's going to radically increase poverty almost immediately, overnight. It's going to radically increase illiteracy. It's going to radically increase or decrease life expectancy. And it's going to be radical. It's going to be extremely fast. You're going to see your transportation system begin to fail, right? You're going to see science and technology. That's over. Like, that's done. There's no such thing as science and technology anymore in Argentina. Like, he essentially is standing up and announcing the destruction of the state of Argentina to be broken up and sold off. That's what we are actually experiencing. Yes, a radical increase in profits. Yes, so 3 people will do very well, I'm sure. Right? They're definitely going to see the line go up. That's definitely going to happen. Yet they have tuition-free university in Argentina, not anymore. Yeah, that's basically over. Like, if you eliminate the Ministry of Education, there's no one to negotiate with anymore. Right? That you are basically saying to the universities, you can set the tuition at whatever you would like. Right? So you're going to create and divide the society into 2 classes, right? Those who have assets and can afford to have access to these things that are on sale in a quote-unquote free market system, and the vast majority of people who can't, who must sell themselves to that system in order to get access to the basic bare essentials of what makes this society worth living in the first place. I want to buy shares in the Ministry of Labor. Yeah, I mean, so I would like to read aloud a couple of articles right off the top. I've been thinking about these 2. Of course, another real powerful piece from Chris Hedges. Delta the Canadian, good to see you, another fellow Canadian. I'm in Ontario, my man. Ruled by the failure Doug Ford. Why don't they ever eliminate the Ministry of Patents? Yeah. This is titled simply, The Horror, the Horror. Doha, Qatar. I am in the studio of Al Jazeera's Arabic service watching a live feed from Gaza City. The Al Jazeera reporter in northern Gaza, because of the intense Israeli shelling, was forced to evacuate to southern Gaza. He left his camera behind. He trained it on Al-Shifa Hospital, Gaza's largest medical complex. It is night. Israeli tanks fire directly towards the hospital compound. Long, horizontal, red flashes. A deliberate attack on a hospital. A deliberate war crime. A deliberate massacre of the most helpless civilians, including the very sick and infants. Then the feed goes dead. We sit in front of the monitors. We are silent. We know what this means. No power. No water, no internet, no medical supplies. Every infant in an incubator will die. Every dialysis patient will die. Everyone in the intensive care unit will die. Everyone who needs oxygen will die. Everyone who needs emergency surgery will die. And what will happen to the 50,000 people who, driven from their homes by the relentless bombing, have been taken refuge in the hospital grounds? We know the answer to that as well. Many of them, too, will die. There are no words to express what we are witnessing. In the 5 weeks of horror, this is the one of the pinnacles of horror. The indifference of Europe is bad enough. The act of complicity by the United States is unfathomable. Nothing justifies this. Nothing. And Joe Biden will go down in history as an accomplice to genocide. May the ghosts of the thousands of children he has participated in murdering haunt him for the rest of his life. Israel and the United States are sending a chilling message to the rest of the world. International and humanitarian law, including the Geneva Conventions, are meaningless pieces of paper. They did not apply in Iraq. They do not apply in Gaza. We will pulverize your neighborhoods and cities with bombs and missiles. We will wantonly murder your women, children, elderly, and sick. We will set up blockades to engineer starvation and the spread of infectious diseases. You, the lesser breeds of the earth, do not matter. To us you are vermin, to be extinguished. We have everything. If you try and take any of it away from us, we will kill you, and we will never be held accountable. We are not hated for our values. We are hated because we have no values. We are hated because rules only apply to others, not to us. We are hated because we have arrogated to ourselves the right to carry out indiscriminate slaughter. We are hated because we are heartless and cruel. We are hated because we are hypocrites, talking about protecting civilians, the rule of law, and humanitarianism, while extinguishing the lives of hundreds of people in Gaza a day, including 160 children. Israel reacted with indignation and moral outrage when it was accused of bombing the Al-Ali Arab Christian hospital in Gaza, which left hundreds of dead. The bombing, Israel claimed, came from an errant rocket fired by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. There is nothing in the arsenal of Hamas or Islamic Jihad that could have replicated the massive explosive power of the missile that struck the hospital. Those of us who have covered Gaza have heard this Israel trope so many times it is risible. They always blame Hamas and the Palestinians for their war crimes, now attempting to argue that hospitals are Hamas command centers and therefore legitimate targets. They never provide evidence. The Israeli military and government lie like they breathe. Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, which has staff working in Al-Shifa, issued a statement saying patients, doctors, and nurses are trapped in hospitals under fire. It called on the Israeli government to cease this unrelenting assault on Gaza's health system. Over the past 24 hours, hospitals in Gaza have been under relentless bombardment. Al-Shifa Hospital Complex, the biggest health facility where MSF staff are still working, has been hit several times, including the maternity and outpatient departments, resulting in multiple deaths and injuries. The statement read, "The hostilities around the hospital have not stopped. The MSF teams and hundreds of patients are still inside Al-Shifa Hospital. MSF urgently reiterates its calls to stop the attacks against hospitals, for an immediate ceasefire and for the protection of medical facilities, medical staff, and patients. 3 other hospitals in northern Gaza and Gaza City are encircled by Israeli forces and tanks in what a doctor told Al Jazeera was a day of war against hospitals. The Indonesian hospital has reportedly also lost power. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, reports that 20 of 36 hospitals in Gaza no longer function. Israel and Washington's cynicism is breathtaking. There are no differences in intent. Washington only wants it done quickly. Humanitarian corridors, pauses in the shelling, these are vehicles to facilitate the total depopulation of northern Gaza. The handful of aid trucks allowed through the border at Rafah with Egypt, a public relations gimmick. There is only one goal: kill, kill, kill. The faster, the better. All Biden officials talk about is what comes next once Israel has finished its decimation of Gaza. They know Israel's slaughter will not end until Gazans are living in the open without shelter in the southern part of the Strip and dying because of a lack of food, water, and medical care. Gaza before Israel's ground incursion was one of the most densely populated spots on the planet. Imagine what will happen with 1.1 million Gazas from the north piled on top of over 1 million in the south. Imagine what will take place when infectious diseases such as cholera become an epidemic. Imagine the ravages of starvation. The pressure will build to do something, and that something, Israel hopes, will be to push the Palestinians over the border into the Sinai in Egypt. Once there, they will never return. Israel's ethnic cleansing of Gaza will be complete. Its ethnic cleansing of the West Bank will begin. That is Israel's demented dream. To achieve it, they will make Gaza uninhabitable. Ask yourself, if you were a Palestinian in Gaza and had access to a weapon, what would you do? If Israel killed your family, how would you react? Why would you care about international or humanitarian law when you know it only applies to the oppressed, not the oppressors? If terror is the only language Israel uses to communicate, the only language it apparently understands, wouldn't you speak back with terror? Israel's orgy of death will not crush Hamas. Hamas is an idea. This idea is fed on the blood of martyrs. Israel is giving Hamas an abundant supply. It's Mr. Hedges' religious backing, his religious understanding, his religious upbringing that makes him such a powerful writer. That he understands, fundamentally, that we are spiritual beings living in a material world. And that he knows, fundamentally, the difference between right and wrong. That the people who are carrying out this genocide see this in a very utilitarian way. That we will deal with this problem, and then the problem will go away. But the truth is that the people who are committing these sorts of genocides simply find new problems. And if they are willing to deal with this problem in this way, then they will deal with the next problem in the same way. that we are, metaphorically, living in a town where there is one person walking around slaughtering people in the open. And everyone knows who they are, and everyone knows what they're doing. And everyone is just happy that they're not kicking in your door. Everyone's just happy that they are being left alone. For now. For now. A country that is willing to support these actions is a country that does not exist. You are not beholden to follow their rules. You are not beholden to follow their laws. Kill the hope inside of yourself that says, maybe it will change. Murderous, psychopathic, genocidal maniacs do not have come to Jesus moments. You live in a society that solves its problems through acts of genocidal violence. And when you become a problem to them, they will act in the same way. There is no such place as the United States of America. It is an idea that has lost credibility entirely. An idea whose adherents are revealing themselves to be depraved maniacs. Speak with your neighbors. Get to know their name. Have a little party. Make them some cookies. Become well regarded with the people who are directly around you. Because that's what's real. Not America. Not the state you live in. Not even your mayor. Not even your city councilor. The people who live in the building that you do. The people who live on the street that you do. Those are real. That's what's real. The idea of America is dead. And it's never coming back. And as the corpse decays, it will become more and more grotesque. Like a zombie clown, still trying to make you laugh, as pieces fall off of its body. It would be pathetic if it wasn't so serious. Max Blumenthal article exposing Israel's role in October 7th violence is eye-opening. Certainly. I don't know that I've read the article, but I've got the gist of it. That Israel launched Hellfire missiles into the crowd. Most of the people who died that day died because of Israel. Which makes sense. Like, Hamas doesn't have firepower. They don't have the ability. And there's all the evidence in the world to show that Hamas didn't expect there to be a music festival there. That the music festival had extended its stay. Yeah. Kim Jong-vroom on Twitch. Rehabilitation doesn't work for war criminals. Is morality objective or subjective? I mean, I guess that sort of depends on who you ask. There is such a thing as an act of objective evil that cannot be defended. It does exist. You can never defend torture, even though people have tried. Frauds like Sam Harris have tried to defend torture. There are acts that are obviously evil and cannot be defended. Genocide is a good example. That there is no justification whatsoever. Withholding food and shelter from people, I make the argument, is one of these, that there is no justification for it outside of it makes me rich. That oftentimes moral relativism or subjective morality essentially gets peddled as an idea, as a way to convince people to allow con men to con them. So I don't care too much for that. But on the other hand, people who generally espouse a message of moral objectivity like to say things like gay people are bad. So, feel like it's all a negotiation. But if you aren't willing to stand up and say that genocide is wrong, that torture is wrong, that starving people is wrong, then you're not a person who we can take very seriously or should listen to at all. Mikhail, good to see you. Good to see you. Speaking of psychopathic mass murderers, Exxon urges the world to get real on climate change. CEO Darren Woods. Let's all remember this name. Let's write it in our minds right now collectively. Let's all take a moment and just spread into your consciousness. Wherever you keep the file of information of people who you hope burn in hell forever, let's slide the name Darren Woods into there, right? Just like Peter Thiel, the necromancer, or Elon Musk, apartheid baby. Darren Woods says casting big oil as villains harms the net zero drive. So first of all, we're not casting big oil as villains. They are villains. Destroying civilization for pieces of paper is villainy. We don't need to cast anyone in any position. Riding high on $65 billion worth of recent acquisitions and a 60% share price rally during the past 2 years, ExxonMobil Corporate Chief Executive Officer Darren Woods delivered a tough message to government officials and executives gathered in San Francisco on Wednesday. To get serious about net zero, the world needs to get real, he said in a speech at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation CEO Summit. We cannot replace overnight an energy system that took 150 years to build. I would make the argument that getting real about climate change would begin by incarcerating Darren Woods. That would be getting real about climate change. And nobody on our side of the fence has ever said anything about replacing overnight an energy system that took 150 years to build. We just think that we should begin the process instead of expanding it. Instead of expanding the energy system that's actively destroying us, as Darren Woods would like to do, the psychopathic mass murderer that he is, we would like to begin dismantling it. No one thinks it's going to happen overnight, unless you're a loser like Darren Woods, who should probably spend the rest of his natural life in a prison cell, forgotten. As the world's largest investor-owned oil and gas company and the subject of several climate deception lawsuits, Exxon appears to be one of the least qualified companies to pontificate on energy transition. I don't understand why we are fining these people instead of incarcerating them. Oh, Wagenator wants to discuss the concept of forced incarceration. Isn't that torture? Well, what would you like to do with mass murdering criminals? What do you think should be done with them? I'm all ears. But I would argue that torture is torture. Taking a needle and putting it under someone's thumbnail is torture. Waterboarding is torture. Putting someone in a room, forcing them to stand up for 24 hours, depriving them of sleep. The things that the United States military have done. Prison, debatable. We can have a debate about whether or not prison is torture. But then we have to come up with the question with what do we do with Darren Woods and psychopaths like him. But the world has changed a lot since the height of the ESG movement 2 years ago. Europe is facing a second winter without Russian gas, and Asia is seeking to lock in access to the energy needed to underpin long-term economic growth. Attacking big oil for supplying fossil fuels will only plunge more and more people into poverty and do nothing to tackle demand, Woods guaranteed as a promise that he's definitely going to do because he's a psychotic megalomaniac. The constructive approach, let's listen to what the psychopath has to say about constructive approaches, is for governments to back industry's technological efforts to reduce emissions, such as carbon capture, with taxpayer funds, he said. So don't get rid of the psychopaths, put them in prison cells, begin the process of dismantling steadily downward while increasing other forms of energy that are not carbon-based, but instead continue polluting as much as you possibly can while investing in failed technologies that don't work. On your dime, by the way. So he's not going to pay for it. You are. Let's continue listening to what the psychopath has to say. Just 2 months ago, California sued major oil companies, including Exxon, for allegedly deceiving the public on climate change. Allegedly. If successful, the suit could further reduce the industry's willingness to invest in big projects. Don't you love this phrase? Don't you love it? Just 2 months ago, California sued major oil companies, including Exxon, for allegedly deceiving the public on climate change. So what's it going to do? It's going to give them a fine. Yeah, can you pay $1.5 million? Can you pay $1 billion? Yeah, we're not going to put you in jail or anything. So you take the $64 billion that you stole from the public and do what you like with it. Go get a Jeffrey Epstein Island or something. We're going to fine you $1 billion and say bad for lying to us for decades and guaranteeing the death of millions. Bad. Oh, you're such a bad person. And then this phrase, I love it. If successful, the suit could further reduce the industry's willingness to invest in big projects. That's the goal, you psychos. That's the goal. The goal is to reduce the industry's willingness to invest in big projects, you megalomaniac psychopaths. You crazed lunatics who are actively destroying the future of humanity. You total psychos like Darren Woods saying, oh no, it's going to further reduce the industry's willingness to invest in big projects. Like when Luke Skywalker shot the rocket into the Death Star and it exploded and we all went, oh, the Death Star, oh no, right? Exactly like that. How we all lamented and grieved the loss of the Death Star. Woods encouraged Asia to follow more encouraging policies, like the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, that subsidizes low-carbon technology rather than impose punitive measures. We should take this guy and cease his speech and put him in a jail cell. Like, anytime any of these guys stand up and say, we shouldn't be punished for our murder of millions of people, we should increase the punishment by 10, by a factor of 10. That this guy, Darren Woods, needs to be forgotten about, stripped of his assets, and impoverished completely. He needs to be removed from the conversation, thought of as badly as we think of Goebbels. The solution to climate change have been too focused on reducing supply, he said. That's a recipe for human hardship, he guaranteed, saying that that's his goal. The executive also tried to flip the script on a slogan from the long-running Exxon New campaign, which claims that company executives downplayed warnings from their own scientists since the 1970s that carbon dioxide causes climate change. We've got the tools, the skills, the size, and the intellectual and financial resources to bend the curve on emissions, he said. That's what ExxonMobil knows. Yes, we do have the tools, the skills, the size, the intellectual, and the financial resources that you have been withholding on purpose to cause the problem. Go to prison forever and die there, Darren Woods. I hope that when you die, God sends you to hell and you burn there for eternity. These people are psychopaths, and their defenders are fucking fascists. The idea that we should be playing softball or negotiating with these total narcissistic psychopaths it really tells you how gulled we are as a people. That the education system did its job really well, kept us very stupid and illiterate, made us hate everything to do with the arts, made us hate everything to do with actually building a real culture, and made us completely subservient to psychos. That's the achievement of our education system. That's what it was for, and it worked. Because we listened to these people, and instead of going jail, just fucking go to jail. Get in the prison cell, lock the door, key thrown away, burn all the paperwork, forget where this guy is. Instead of doing that, we actually go, yeah, maybe I guess he's got a point, but we gotta actually negotiate. No, we don't. No, we don't. Get this fucking loser centrist out of my chat. Fuck off. What a loser. Go jerk off to porn, my man. Go fuck off. Right? I'm not porn for you. Take your dick out of your hand. Fucking loser. Just some little kid trying to play like gotcha. Gotcha. You're not. You're sounding more. Fuck off. I hope that when climate change comes, it destroys your house first. Like, yes, I think that psychopaths should face punishment. You fucking loser apologist. You total fucking loser. Apologizing for psychopaths. Pretending like we shouldn't be punishing psychopaths. Offering no solutions for what we should do with psychopaths. You fucking little boy child. Take your dick out of your hand and get the fuck out of my chat. Yep, has enough money to solve world hunger crisis, could kickstart the solution to the climate crisis, instead helps to propagate the conspiracy theory that there's some sort of border crisis. Morbid wealth leads to brain rot. Well, even worse than that are people like this loser. What was his name again? This wage-nator? This absolute loser who is in here acting as a total simp for these people? Like, I completely understand the brain rot that comes out of these guys. Like, they're detached psychopaths. History has written tons and tons of stuff about what wealth does to people, right? We have stuff like Faust. We have we have art. That's why they keep us illiterate and stupid, so we don't actually read anything or know anything about our own history. So that we don't actually read the works of Shakespeare. So that we don't actually know anything about what wealth does to people and how it corrupts people and how it destroys people. That's at least understandable. It's at least somewhat understandable that a guy with $64 billion would be a ghoul, right? There's an understanding there. Yeah, he sold his soul for money. He made a bargain with the devil. He has his wealth and power. He's a demon, right? It makes sense that he would be a soulless ghoul. But the simps, the people who are simps for them, the people who are sitting there jerking off, oh, Darren Woods, oh, he's so powerful, right? People like Ayn Rand, who's obviously just a simp for power. Like these people are just inscrutable, just total losers, just absolutely the bargain basement of intelligent thought. They're powerful, so I love them. Like it's just daddy worship at the highest possible level. Yes, daddy. Thank you so much, daddy. I can't wait to kiss your feet, daddy. Darren Woods is so powerful. Doing anything bad to Darren Woods is torture. Putting Darren Woods in a jail cell is torture. Sure, he's going to murder 100 million people, but whatever. You don't need to punish billionaires, right? There's no reason to punish them for their many crimes. Like, for their many obvious, overt, right in front of your face, genocidal war crimes that you can see with your eyes. Oh, yeah, but if you take them and put them in a jail cell, that's torture. You're the real torturer. What a fucking loser. Just absolutely brain dead. Just absolute brain dead, dumb bullshit. Yeah, Elon comes from a colonizer background, right? He's literally a modern day colonizer. Servants of Satan. Yeah. Generation Y me, good to see you. I hope this is content that you guys like. Like, I hope that this is content that you guys are here for. Like, this is what it is. This is what it is at the Canadian Commie, right? Like, you come in here and I lay it out how it is. I lay it out how it is and I tell you what you are. If you're going to simp for power in here, I'm going to tell you exactly what you are. Generation Y me, there was a manager at my work in the break room being like, why do people working minimum wage ask for more? Oh, this is going to be good. When they don't, leaving me hanging, Generation Y me, produce much. Like, yeah, this is the illiteracy that I'm talking about. Right? Like, who do they think? You know what my favorite moment that happened in recent history has been? Right? The most favorite moment that has happened in recent history was during the COVID period. What happened during the COVID period? Right? During the COVID period, everybody went home and stayed home. Right? We had a month or two where everybody stayed home. Who was called the essential workers during that period of time? Who were told that they were absolutely essential? Without their work and without their dedication during this period of time, the entire society would collapse and it would be a total disaster. Who were the essential workers? Was it the billionaires? Was it the managers? Was it the financiers? Was it the people on Wall Street? Was it the oil executives? Oh, it was the grocery store workers. It was the minimum wage workers. We're told explicitly, to our faces, in public, oh, you can't stay home. You can't stay home like us very important office workers who do a serious job. No, if you stay home, minimum wage workers who are easily replaceable, then there'll be a real problem. You're essential. And now we get told by these detached narcissistic losers, simps for power, that what you can, why do minimum wage workers keep complaining when they don't produce much? Essential. We deserve literally everything that's coming for us. We deserve every single piece of it. The fact that we are not organizing in order to have full-scale revolution in the face of genocidal maniacs, narcissists like Darren Woods telling us to get real. Yeah, we should get real. We should absolutely get real. We should get real at his house. We should get real at his workplace. We should get real on his car. We should get real. Yeah, plenty of people believe they'll become those rich fucks one day if they just work hard enough. Yeah, they're demented. They're delusional. Yeah, they don't want to curse and insult their future class. Like, I can't wait to see like how. And did you know that the largest cohort of homeless people are boomers? Right, people who have just been completely abandoned by the system that said, no, don't worry, work your life away. Work your life away. Keep working. You'll be rich. You're just a temporary embarrassed millionaire. Had to sit through hearing his, is it, and this is a manager? Like, this is somebody who is actually managing people? Because I'm going to tell you right now, Generation Y Me, if I was the owner or CEO or president or even the person directly above that person, and I heard that this guy was sitting in a break room surrounded by minimum wage workers saying that kind of thing, even if I thought it was true, I would fire that person. That's a very stupid thing to do. Really highlights the stupidity of the society generally. I remember one time, really I started to realize how dumb these rich people can be. I remember one time, I was working at a Starbucks, serving coffee, and literally a guy would come in every morning on his way to work. Real rich, detached, narcissist type. Like, nothing mattered but him, obviously. And he came in and he was just complaining that there was affordable housing in his building. Something like 8% of the apartments in his building had to be affordable housing. And so who was living there? A minimum wage worker. And he was just bitching and crying and moaning that he had to interact in any way whatsoever at any moment in his life with those people, while I'm literally standing right in front of him serving him. Like, there are just people who are demented, and they more or less do not care. It just did not come into his mind that I was a person, that I was a minimum wage worker. This is what I'm talking about. I said it right at the beginning of the show, and I'll continue talking about it probably until the day I die. There are people walking around, and the experience they have with reality is exclusively their eyes, what they feel in their skin and their ears and their nose and their mouth, and that's it. That is the extent of reality. That they cannot perceive even a single layer beyond that. That the person that you are talking with is a minimum wage worker that is working in an establishment that exists in a building. Like, we're already far too far, right? And that they can only really interact with the society in very vague sort of, like, they elect their leader, they think, right? That's the degree to which they have engagement in their society. But everything else is just stuffing food in their face, doing a job that they think is important but isn't. And we know it isn't important because everybody stopped doing it for a period of 2 to 3 months and it didn't matter, while the minimum wage workers were called essential. Like, yeah, and this is the other part of it. He's just a manager. He makes only a little above me and works long-ass hours. Shitting on poor people must be considered hate speech. Well, it's so wild because people like this, like, he's not much. He's closer to you than he is to his boss. Like, he's closer to you than he is to the capitalist class by a lot, right? His role within the structure is slightly different. His job is just to make sure you do your job. And he seems to not understand that your productivity is his job. It's his job to make sure that your productivity is up and goes up and stays up. And you know what a great way of keeping people wanting to be productive is? Calling them useless. What a great way to increase productivity. Yeah, important to realize any of us could become poor. Yeah, and it would be easy. It would be very easy. Like especially in a society that doesn't have any safety nets whatsoever. In a society that is literally abandoning itself in the manner that our society is abandoning itself. It would be incredibly simple, incredibly easy. One bad day is all it would take. One bad day for most of us to be thrust into a state of total poverty. And it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And the ability for people to recover from disaster is getting harder and harder and harder. And we're not doing anything about it. We seem to be reveling in it, frankly. Yeah, he's jealous that you got hero pay for 12 days and he didn't. That's right, hero pay. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? They called all of the minimum wage workers essential. They said they gave you hero pay. All of this fucking nonsense bullshit, right? My favorite is that they like increased wages, which they could have always done, and then immediately decreased them. Like, these guys just should have these assets taken away from them. They should just have these assets taken away from them. Yeah. Most people I know are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. If you are not living paycheck to paycheck, if you are getting yourself into a situation where you actually have savings and you actually have something, right? That puts you in a vanishing minority. You are in a very small group of people, and you should be very thankful for that. You should be very, very thankful for that. How I managed it and how I have done it is that I actively put in an automated withdrawal from my account, and I just build it into my life. That there's just money taken out of my account and put into a savings account somewhere. I highly advise everybody do that. I think that everyone should do that. Just automate it. Don't dick around with it unless you really have to. And that's where it was getting for me, right? I'm happy to talk about finances. I think everybody should be talking about their financials at this stage in the game. We're in a society that is abandoning itself. People need to know where people stand. Like, things were getting tight for me. I was having to dip into that savings. I was having to pull money out of it in order to just keep the boat going. And so now, within the space of a single month, I've got a roommate. My work is adjusting my hours so that I only work 3 days a week. I'm doing this, which brings in a little bit of wealth. Good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles. Even $1 helps. Every little tiny bit helps. But more importantly than anything else, tell people I exist. Let someone know. Let someone know that they can come in and they can ask these questions to someone and get an answer, that they might not like it, but they'll get it. Something like 60% of the society is currently living paycheck to paycheck, are within $200. A $200 disaster being the thing that plunges them downward. This is a failed society that does not work. And it's going to continue this way. As more and more clowns get elected, as more and more ridiculous boobs take the center stage, as the capitalists begin to find crazier and crazier people to galvanize the public along crazier and crazier lines. That what happens after Pierre Poilievre takes power and everybody realizes that he's not going to do any of the things he promised, that prices are the same, rent is the same, there's been no alleviation of any of these pressures whatsoever. Your wages are still stagnated. Inflation is still going up. Rent is still skyrocketing. What are people going to do here in Canada once they realize that there is no electoral decision? There is no electoral solution. What do you think is going to start happening in serious ways? Well, the most likely thing that's going to happen is that people are going to become radicalized, and they're going to recognize that the Liberal Party and the NDP should be abandoned. And they're going to begin supporting more radical alternatives and more radical parties. And they're going to begin creating radical parties. Like the PPC was a version of this on the right. That the right was the one that was getting together with a radical party initiative. Well, if the Liberals and the NDP begin losing support to a radical alternative that says things like Darren Woods should go to jail forever, well, who do you think the capitalists are going to start funding? Along what lines do you think they will begin fighting? Cap prices, scalp landlords, yeah. Like, that's the greatest part about this story from you, Generation Why Me. Like, who is more worthless than a landlord? Landlords provide exactly zero value. Perhaps a negative value in the society. They are a parasite. They drain wealth out of the society into their own coffers for nothing. They do nothing of value at all. They are worthless. And yet we're told that the people who are actually doing the work, i.e. the minimum wage workers, right? The people who are actually doing the work, who are actually standing in the places, who are actually talking to people, who are actually delivering the service, who are actually creating the goods, who are actually distributing the goods, who are actually doing the work, are told that they're unproductive. It's completely backwards. We are a backwards society that is going to deserve every little piece of everything it gets. Yeah, it's sickening how a significant percentage of newscasts is given over to little more than celebrity gossip every damn night. This is a good time to transfer over to what I wanted to talk about with global news. Global National, November 19th. Premature babies left at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital safely evacuated. Literally, if you go and you actually watch this, right? This loser here. What's this loser's name? This I wonder if he. Hello, I'm Brett Chaffley. I'm Bill Machoven. Right? This stuck-up guy wearing a suit. Look, I gotta talk about this, man. I gotta talk about this. I have a piece of clothing that I'm going to be throwing away today. And the reason why I'm going to be throwing it away is because it's got shoulder pads. Like, shoulder pads have got to be the most embarrassing shit. Let's take a look at men's fashion right now. Look at this guy's monkey suit. Look at this outfit that this moron is wearing. Look at the way this dimwit looks, right? The stenographer for power, right? The story that this guy tells you is that the IDF told us that they saved all those babies in the incubators after they blew up the hospital. They're the heroes, really, actually. We haven't verified those reports, but we're going to report on them as if we have. This is not a genocidal regime whatsoever. Heartwarming stories. Heartwarming Israeli stories. Oh, it's so heartwarming. Look, they saved babies from themselves. Look, that means the genocide is okay, right? It's completely okay that this is genocide apologencia. Something like 3 million people, 4 million people are subscribed to this, right? How many people are watching this being like, oh, it's not a genocide. It's completely fine. They saved babies, actually. Right? And this idiot is standing in front of you, or this just mouthpiece for power, is just standing in front of you, literally wearing the stupidest outfit you've ever seen in your life. Like, the only reason we're not all snickering at the way this guy looks, because he looks like a dumb idiot, like a ponce completely. The only reason we're not snickering about it is because it's normal. Because it's like, this is what a professional looks like. All the normal people wear this. They wear a jacket indoors with shoulder pads to make them look bigger, even though they're scrawny little weasels. That doesn't fit, looks uncomfortable. With a noose around their neck. But it's okay that it's a noose because it's got fun colors. Oh, and a shirt. And a shirt that buttons right up to the top of the neck with a little collar to hide the noose. So that you might not realize that we're tying nooses around our necks. The nooses are there so that our bosses can grab them and hang us at their leisure. What are we doing here? What's this? What's this dumb look that we're all supposed to believe is a serious thing that we should all take seriously? Like, if I walked in to a room wearing like a straitjacket, right? Like a straitjacket that was open, right? Let's cut the collars on the straitjacket and pleat the straitjacket so that I've got a straitjacket on and the straitjacket is on me, right? And underneath the straitjacket, I was wearing like a shirt that was like big and puffy around my ears, right? Just a big puffy thing. And I had pots and pans. I was wearing like pots on my shoulders and a literal rope, like a literal noose rope. I would look just as professional as this guy does. I would look exactly the same as what this guy looks like. Super sharp. Looks super credible. This is definitely a person who I want to believe in. Like, what's that about? Why do we buy into this? Why do we think that a guy walks into a room wearing a suit and everybody goes, oh, wow, I got to listen to everything this guy has to say, even though he's definitely spent a good portion of his morning lying to me? We respect bullshit. We respect it. Look how much effort he's put into looking like bullshit. He must be serious. And then there's a great portion of this that's all just dedicated to Taylor Swift. Swiftie, did you know that people died waiting for Taylor Swift? That there were people at a Taylor Swift concert and they all and a person died in the heat waiting for a Taylor Swift concert. Look at these people. They're waiting in line for a Taylor Swift concert. One of them died, and so Taylor Swift cancels the concert. I'm more or less of the opinion that the show should go on, right? Really, don't let that guy die in vain, right? Put your show on so you can complain about how boyfriends break up with you. Really let us know how you feel about your boyfriend, right? That's the best. Good old Swiftie. Really laying it out for us. I had a boyfriend and he was mean. Duh, Taylor Swift, telling us how it goes. Here's a great article from the Globe and Mail. The comment sections in every global video on Palestine are incredibly disgusting. Oh yeah, for sure. Like they wouldn't do it if it didn't work, right? They wouldn't say these things if they fell on deaf ears, right? All massive homophobes asking like we should condemn Hamas because they're homophobic. Yeah, that's right. It's exactly how the United States is like, we suddenly care about Muslims if they're in China. The Uyghur genocide is real, we promise. No, you can't see a picture of it. Vengeance in war is terrible and nothing new. From Charles Lewis. I can already tell this is going to be a real humdinger. Can already tell, right? Vengeance is war is terrible. But you know, it's happened before. It's nothing new. Charles Lewis. A former editor and reporter for the National Post, so probably a Nazi. Those who have been outraged by the Israeli attack on Gaza appear to know little about the history of warfare. How's that for an opening line? Just straight up, if you're outraged by the Israeli attack on Gaza, then you're not literate about history, friend. You started it. Isn't just a childish retort, it's also the way adults react, though with much deadlier consequences. What? Dude, this article is going to be great. This is going to be some incoherent. You know what my favorite part about today's stream is so far? I'm just going to pause for a minute and have a little meta conversation about how this stream is going. Bit dour. This one's been a bit grim. Right? But thanks, Chris Hedges. Right? We read a Chris Hedges article right at the beginning to really start off the whole thing. Right? Sad babies are dying? You must be stupid. Yeah, like, that's the thing, right? Is that these articles, you don't need to lampoon them. Right? You don't need to create satire about them. They are satires of themselves. That if all you did was read this out loud in front of people, everyone would go, oh my fucking God. So, let's do it. Let's embrace the craziness. Life is satire. Absurdism is real. The people who hate genocides are the real genociders. This opening volley is so great. Those who have been outraged by the Israeli attack on Gaza appear to know little about the history of warfare. You started it isn't just a childhood retort. It's also the way adults react, though with much deadlier consequences. Oh, that's right. Okay, I was confused. Right. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Right. My bad. History started October 7th. I forgot. Sorry. As a Marxist, I believe that history has there's a lot of it, right? You can keep going back and you can find the actual beginning of when things actually started, right? Like the whole Israel experiment, really you can trace it back to as far back as like 1896, right? Like you can go back to like the late 1800s where you can see the British and the Americans and some Jews planning these ideas and putting together. You can see the Ottoman Empire. You can see the Ottomans reacting to this idea and basically being like, this is a bad idea. Like, this is going to result in some really bad stuff, so we're not going to support it, right? We're not going to allow that to happen. Well, Ottoman Empire is gone, so they push forward with it, right? But if you believe history began October 7th, then this makes a lot more sense. Of course. Hamas started it. That's what we're going with here. Got it, right? Because history started October 7th. It's also It's also a reaction that goes right to the root of civilization. One as old as the Old Testament, if not older. Holy fuck. This guy who's just trying to convince us that history started on October 7th is now evoking the Old Testament, specifically the Old Testament, not just the Bible, kids. The Old Testament. Wow. There's some, 89-year-old dude with his pants up to here going like, that's right. That's right, like the Bible. Like the Bible. Jesus is against the mouse. There is no getting away from the horrors of what is playing out in Gaza. Correct. No one with an ounce of humanity can ignore the thousands of dead, many of whom were children, or the images of how homeless Gazans holding buckets in the hope of getting a bit of water. So he's put this paragraph here so that we don't immediately recognize that he's a Nazi, right? No, of course I have humanity. Of course I care about those people. Now, here are all the reasons why we shouldn't care. Some might call the Israeli attack righteous. Others would label it as a deadly overreaction, or even a war crime. Israel attacked by Hamas on October 7th, when history started, when the group murdered around 1,200 and took about 240 hostages, including babies and children. How dare they fight back? History started October 7th. Hamas may have thought this attack would drive Israel to its knees, or perhaps it knew full well what would happen after. That there would be a massive retribution, and the world would soon forget about the October 7th massacre of Jews and turn on Israel. It was their master plan. Their master plan, you guys. Their master plan was to begin history on October 7th and turn the world against Israel so their plan is to strike at Israel for no reason, because October 7th was the start of history. No reason, nothing to see here, knowing that Israel's response would be full-scale genocide. Huh? This is this guy's logic. What he's saying to your face, right in front of you, is that the plan was always to provoke a genocidal maniac into genocide. Thanks, bud. What's your name again? Charles Lewis? Ponzi name, Nazi. But Israel's actions shouldn't be a surprise. Yeah, to anyone paying attention to Israel, it shouldn't be a surprise. Because Israel's a genocidal nation, right? Remember that Israel is a Jewish state. Even though many of its citizens are secular in outlook, the religious stories... Here we go, you guys. Here we go. This is gonna get fucking great. This is gonna be some just straight up which ones are they gonna use? Is it gonna be Joshua? Do you think it's gonna be Joshua? Joshua committed a genocide against the Canaanites, pretty nakedly. Moses brought them to the Holy Land. He brought them to the land of milk and honey. And then Joshua is basically just going around killing Canaanites and just being like, yeah, this is our place. Fuck off. No, God said this is our place. Go fucking die. Right? That's basically the story. I hope he does. I hope he evokes or Sodom and Gomorrah is a good one. Right? So everybody, people pretend like they know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, but they don't. I love that this guy, Charles Lewis, is stepping right into my wheelhouse, man. I know all these stories. I've read the Bible 3 times. I'm due for another read. Skip Numbers. Never read Numbers. Just always a bad time. I've read through Numbers twice. Just don't. There's nothing there. I promise. Unless you're a hyper nerd and you're digging holes to find bodies. The religious stories that are told come straight out of the Hebrew Bible, also known as the Old Testament. Oh, thanks, Charles. Thanks, bud. Thanks for that little lesson there right now. Oh, wow, guys, did you know that the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, was the Old Testament? Whoa. We're learning things. And the God of the Hebrew Bible rained down his righteous anger throughout Israel's biblical history. God was angry at sinful mankind, so he flooded the earth. Noah, good one. Killing everyone but those on Noah's ark. In Exodus, to free the Jews from Egypt, God killed every firstborn Egyptian male child, although they were innocent of any crime. And in the book of Samuel, this guy is going to Samuel. Dude, that's a good one. Nobody ever brings up Samuel. Well done, sir. Saul is told to go and smite Amalek, utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man, woman, and infant. A passage cited by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This guy's the guy on the side of Israel? This article's on the side of Israel? This is how they're defending Israel right now? This is the defense, you guys. This is them standing up and being like, look, sure they're acting like genocidal maniacs, but have you read this book? So that makes it fine. They've got a magic book, and the magic book told them to do it. So, our hands are tied. Our hands are totally tied. We can't do anything about this. A much more recent expression of this kind of wartime vengeance came after 9/11. This article's great. This is the greatest article ever written, I think. Top 5, for sure, of the greatest articles ever written. He's referencing the Bible. 9/11 is coming in here, right? The fact that a guy like this is being published in the Globe and Mail and Chris Hedges has to publish on Substack, failure of a society. A much more recent expression of this kind of wartime vengeance came after 9/11, when the U.S. went into Afghanistan to root out the Taliban and kill Osama bin Laden. An estimated 47,000 Afghan civilians were killed over a 2-decade-long war, along with many thousands more Afghan and military and police. Which was the right thing to do? According to Charles Lewis, I guess? I don't actually know what point he's trying to make here. So far, this guy sounds like a psycho. He's just like, vengeance is fine. We can use vengeance as a tool, and you should expect that we do. If you hit us, we're going to hit you back 5 times as hard. Look at all the examples. It's in our magic book. The Second World War brought perhaps the most notable examples. Wow, Pearl Harbor's coming up. In December 1941, the Japanese bombed American naval base at Pearl Harbor, killing more than 2,400 Americans. Japan thought the attack would crush the U.S.'s will to fight back. But this is like, what I love about this is how childish all of this is. Like, a statement like, Japan thought the attack would crush the U.S.'s will to fight back. This like all references back to the very first thing that he said. You started it isn't just a childhood retort. It's also the way adults act. No, it's the way children act. You just got bigger. That's all. You didn't grow up. You just got larger. That's it. Like your body grew up, but you're still a child, Charles Lewis. If you actually think, like, a kid comes over, first of all, Israel started it. Like, America and Britain and Israel started it. So the idea that, like, October 7th happened and that's when it started is dumb. But even if they did, even if Hamas like threw a rock, like if some kid was on the playground, here, I'll put this at a level that you might understand Charles Lewis, right? As a child, right? If a kid picks up a rock, okay, and throws it at you, and it pegs you right in the head, and you're bleeding, and you're like, it's only, you do not have the right to kill their family. You understand? Like, it's understandable if you were to throw a rock back at the kid that threw the rock at you, right? Makes sense. Vengeance! But it's beyond vengeance when we're like, I'm going to murder that kid's family, burn down his house, starve him, not let him have any water, blow up the hospital that he's relying on. You know, like, there's a scale to these things that you don't seem to be too terribly aware of, but you are a child after all. Say, like, the reductiveness of all the things that he's saying is what makes him the little boy. That he knows that the Bible is an important book that people read, and so he's doing a Google search and dredging up Samuel and being like, go and smite Amalek. Well, actually, that's straight up Netanyahu. My bad. Right. He like was like, wow, Netanyahu said that thing that sounded super baller. It's from the book of Samuel. In the book of Samuel, I'm super intelligent and smart as a little boy that grew up. This is amazing. And like, what kicked off this whole thing was him saying, Japan thought the attack would crush the U.S.'s will to fight back. The childish narrative, like the childish propaganda surrounding this thing. Like, the bombing of Pearl Harbor was one of many bombings that had occurred throughout that period of time. That Pearl Harbor was used as the casus belli by Roosevelt. But it wasn't like the way that we think about that story is that we were sitting there going, wow, there's a war happening in Europe. Wow, it's crazy over there. Yeah. Forget about the fact that Henry Ford is the guy that gave the Nazis the tanks. Forget about the fact that IBM was the one giving the Nazis the computing technology they needed to carry off the Holocaust, right? Forget about the fact that they were also playing both sides and selling steel to the Soviets. Like, forget about the fact that America was obviously balls deep into this war, acting exactly the way you would expect capitalists to work, helping genocidal Nazis with a war machine that ended up killing 25 million Russians, amongst many others, giving genocidal maniacs the technology they needed to literally commit a genocide, like full-scale industrial, put them in the ovens genocide. America the Beautiful. But no, we were just standing there, and the Japanese just bombed one of our things, and we all went, and then nuked them. Right? That's how we talk about it, because that's what we want, right? That's how we roll up in here. That it wasn't like a calculated thing. They didn't write a speech 50 times. Actually, like, curate it. There wasn't like a big internal debate about whether or not they even talk about Pearl Harbor. Who the fuck even cares about Pearl Harbor? Like, it's well, you know what? Let's do it. You know what? It seems to be doing well with focus groups. Okay, you know what? Let's put it on the radio. See how it goes. Pearl Harbor was the moment that the Japanese became the threat of the world, and made sense that we needed to nuke them twice for their own good. We saved lives. We saved lives by nuking those kids. Oh man, I'm having a real good time with this article. Whoever was responsible for this, was it you, that guy? Was it you? Were you responsible for this article? Are you the one that put it in the Discord? Because this one's great. This one's great. I'm loving this. This is like some high level detachment. It's like really, really trying hard to sound serious, but just looking like a crazed lunatic child. But by the end of the war, somewhere between 300,000 and 900,000 Japanese civilians were killed as a result of massive firebombing raids, many led by the United States. Like, and all the inference here is that it's all good, right? That like they hit us and so we fucked them up. What'd you think was going to happen? I hope that's how this article ends. And so, therefore, in conclusion, vis-a-vis, what did you think was going to happen? Bitch. In one raid alone, in March 1945, 80,000 Japanese were killed in Tokyo. An attack that had no real military purpose other than to break the will of the citizenry. It was pure revenge. Wow, this is the guy defending. This is the defense. and at least 110,000 were killed after atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. By the time of these air raids, the Japanese were starving, and the country's military was defeated in battle after battle. It was already on its knees. This guy's not holding back. Did I write this article? And this guy's like, that's why we're the good guys. After Pearl Harbor, Germany declared war on the United States. Hitler thought the United States was too weak to defeat the Nazi state. But in July 1940, like, this childish narrative, like, the Nazis were already losing on the Eastern Front, that America goes into the war, near as I can tell, not to defeat Nazism. Like, if they were interested in defeating Nazism, they wouldn't have incorporated Nazis into NATO. They wouldn't have done Operation, what was it, Paperclip, where they took a bunch of Nazis back home, right? They wouldn't have rehabilitated all of the Nazis. They wouldn't have done everything they could to make sure that Nazis and Nazism survived, right? If the Americans were actually interested in killing Nazis and destroying Nazism, then they would have done it. They wouldn't have salvaged it and saved it like they did. No, they were obviously joining World War II in order to stop Stalin from going all the way to the coast, taking Spain and Portugal, right? That's pretty clear to me what they were doing, right? That they wanted to meet the Soviets in Berlin so that the Soviets couldn't continue into Europe. That's pretty clear to me what the Americans were actually doing, because they all knew that if the Soviets actually took Europe, then that would be the end of the banking system. That would be the end of the system of capital and the system of credit within Europe, which would be a big problem for them. So they needed to save that, and they did, right? But no, it was that Hitler thought, while he was losing a war against the Soviets, that that the Americans were too weak. That's what it was. But in July 1943, British and American bombers set Hamburg on fire. They could have concentrated on the harbors, a military target, but instead, the entire city was burned to the ground, killing at least 40,000 civilians. Again, this is the defense. For the British, that was a matter of justice, to avenge the bombing of their cities. The Americans thought the mass destruction of a major city would snuff out the Germans' will to fight. It didn't. Then, of course, there was Dresden. That bombing had no military value other than to teach the Germans a lesson. Yeah, it turns out Churchill was also a fucking fascist. What? The guy that committed the Bengali famine was also a fascist? All these attacks were considered necessary to defeat a deadly enemy by any means, just as Israel now sees its mission against Hamas. But today, the results of fury play out in real time. Imagine for a moment. Sorry. But today, guys, did you know? But today, the results of fury play out in real time. Did you know that time moves in real time, you guys? Is this article all just this guy basically standing over his beaten wife saying, "Why'd you make me do that?" Is that basically what this article is? Imagine for a moment. Here we go. We're going into the world of imagination, guys. Join me in the world of imagination. Imagine for a moment if ordinary people in allied countries could have watched other human beings burn to death on a live stream, rather than learning about it later in newspaper articles. This is, are you okay, Charles Lewis? Like, I really think that this guy is, like, over there just, like, really, you can feel his brain crinkling with how to justify what is happening, right? And he's really landing on, like, you made us mad and so we blew you up, and that's, why'd you make us hit you? The health ministry in Gaza says more than 11,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed so far. Bodies are stacked everywhere. And they now join a long list of Germans, Japanese, and many others who have sadly reaped a whirlwind of consequences for the actions of those who unleash violence. that is basically blaming the victim on the highest possible fucking level right there. Say it again. Say it again. And they now join a long list of Germans, Japanese, and many others who have sadly reaped a whirlwind of consequences for the actions of those who unleash violence. It's your fault. For real. Like, this is like a dude, like, beating the shit out of his wife saying, "Why'd you make me angry?" And that's the end of the article. That's the note he leaves us on. That's it. Just boom and out. Wow, Charles Lewis. Wow. This is some high-level Nazi shit right here. Right? This is high-level Nazi shit right here. We got a guy in my chat in Twitch. Who do you support, Palestine and Israel, and why? Palestine, because it's their place. They were there, right? It's why I support the First Nations people, right? It's why I support the black population, because white Westerners have been doing exactly the same thing they've always done forever, which is fuck with everybody else and say they're better off for it, right? It's pretty basic, low-level shit, right? Like, the only reason anybody would actually say, this is a complex issue, both sides, or Israel is the best, is because they are stupid. Like, they don't know anything. They literally thought history started October 7th. They just went, what? Hamas is killing innocent people for no reason? Hamas is evil. Oh, Marvel movies have taught me that it is a battle between good and evil. And the movie starts when I start paying attention, which was October 7th and not a moment earlier. So there's that. Or there's just people who are Nazis. Or Zionists, if you prefer. Right? Like, they're just deeply bleak, evil people. Like this guy, Charles Lewis, who basically evoked the Bible of like, for real, this article, he evokes the Bible, he evokes Pearl Harbor, uses examples from World War II, 9/11, can't forget to justify 9/11 and how we acted, and it all comes down to, if you do anything to us for any reason whatsoever, and we come over there and blow you up, what did you think was going to happen? Pretty straightforward Nazism, if you ask me. Pretty straight. You know what? No, I'm going to pull back. It's not Nazism. It's fascism for sure. It's not Nazism, because he's not saying, like, we're a superior white race, right? Like, he's not saying, like, that kind of stuff. Like, but he is saying, like, he's definitely implying that we have the right to do these things and that we are going to do these things and that there's nothing you can do about it, so just stay out of our way, right? Like, that's the implication here, is that we can just blow up whoever we like and destroy whatever we like, and if you do something to us, we're going to fuck you up, and we don't care what your reasons are. Get out of our way, right? Because you reaped a whirlwind of consequences for the actions of those who unleash violence. What a great finishing line. Holy shit. Like put that beside, like, Mussolini, Hitler, Genghis Khan. Like, wow. Oh, wow. Crazy. So they said God created innocent people and children to kill them again? What? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, just to stop the USSR taking everything up to the Spanish border, for sure. Yeah, that's right, Isaac. It's the children's fault. Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. Oh, man. Chuck Lewis, everybody. This is what they're publishing in the Globe and Mail. right? This is what gets published in the Globe and Mail. There's free speech, you know. We got to make sure that all sides are heard. Even the side of the guy that's standing up and saying, yeah, I beat the shit out of my wife. She made my tuna sandwich wrong. She reaped the whirlwind of consequences. Like, that's what this is. Like, for real, that's what this is. Like, this is a killer line, dude. This is a killer line for somebody who, like, just finished beating the shit out of their wife because they, like, didn't iron their shirt properly. You're raping the whirlwind of consequences. You've unleashed violence. It's your fault. The boys at the plant will make fun of me. Yeah, like, I think my favorite statistic and my favorite fact about Palestine and about the Gaza Strip specifically is that it's, like, mainly kids under the age of 14. Like, what percentage of the Gaza Strip is children? Let's find out. 47%. Defining children as those under the age of 18. In mid-2023, children were estimated to represent about 44% of the population of Palestine. 47% in the Gaza Strip, according to the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics. So not mainly children, okay? Not mainly children, just about half, right? Just a little under half the population is children, right? This is what's considered to be this massive threat to Israel. Like, how weak is Israel? How weak and sad and pathetic and small and insignificant and ridiculous and childish is Israel if they're afraid of a country that's primarily children? So how many, hold on, what percentage of the Gaza Strip is elderly? I want to know more. I want to know more. What's that called? What's the demographics? Gaza Strip demographics. Demographics of the state of Palestine. It's going to be great. Like, mainly children. Not mainly children. I keep saying mainly children. It's not mainly children. It's only an overwhelming amount of children, right? It's only like 47% under the age of 18, right? So the deep, dark, looming threat of Palestinian children. Let's take a look. It's going to be great. So the population, almost 3 million people, in fact. Do they have a... No. We want like age. Births and deaths. Fertility rate, birth, death, life expectancy. The life expectancy, 72. Okay. Not unreasonable. Age structure. This is what we're looking for. This is the money shot right here. This is what we're looking for. So, if you are 14 and younger, you're 36% of the populace. If you're between the ages of 15 and 24, you're 21% of the populace. If you're between the ages of 25 and 54, you're 34%. And if you are over the age of 55, you are 4.7%. Oh, 65 is 3.5%. So actually, the largest cohort is actually children. Like, actually. Like, 25 to 54 is almost as large. Yeah, I can't imagine the blowback from all this. Get to the gun is exactly right. Exactly right. Blowback is a term coined by intelligence agencies in the West. Ron Paul talked about it. Yeah, it's a CIA term. Yeah, over 65 is 3%. Yeah. in 2012 during his presidential campaign. Oh yeah, Ron Paul talked about it during his presidential campaign. People laughed at him. Yeah. No, I actually was really listening to Ron Paul back then. Like, Ron Paul's a kooky guy. Like, he's got some kooky beliefs, but he was right about Iraq. Like, he understood the concept of blowback, and he understood that we were going to face all this stuff. He was saying all along, like, this is the reason why when I was very young when he was in power, but I was supporting Ron Paul when he was running, because I was like, no one else is talking about the war this way. No one else is actually talking about it this way. And he was completely right. He was completely right. And so I can completely disagree with some of the other stuff that, like, his views on healthcare are so ridiculous and childish, frankly. Like, the churches will provide. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get the fuck right out of here, dude. But you're definitely right about the war. Like, that's for sure. And the blowback from this is going to be like there are currently, like, no doubt in my mind whatsoever that there are, like, Islamic fundamentalists writing manifestos that basically say the genocide, the second Nakba is what they'll call it. They'll call it the second Nakba, right? Which is what's happening now. The second Nakba is the reason why blah diddy blah diddy blah diddy blah, right? And the blowback, like, Israel will never be forgiven. Like, it will never be forgiven. If Israel stays there for 10,000 years, it will never be forgiven for this. It will always be seen as this genocidal state because, you know, hey, shoe fits. Watson, good to see you, my man. The Zionists certainly learned well from their Nazi taskmasters. Yeah. According to journalists in the strip, they are targeting journalists and their families, doctors and their families, professors, etc. Yeah. Like, they only want the children, right? They want the children. Hey, Mystic Werewolf, it's been a moment. How are you doing out there, my man? Crazy times. Crazy times. What a time to be alive, my man. Like, this seems to be like a pretty common trope, get to the gun, is that the people who are right in foreign policy seem to just be kind of clueless domestically. And that was Ron Paul. Like, his perspective in terms of foreign policy was correct because he had a principle that proves to be effective. Non-interventionalism is definitely the way to run a successful geopolitical system, right? That you should have a system of non-interventionalism, that you should allow things to unfold internally. That countries are going to have internal struggles, and countries are going to do things internally, and things are going to happen internally, and that you intervening and getting in the way is just going to make things worse. It is just going to make things worse. Like, even if that country is going to destroy itself, you stepping in and getting in there is not going to stop that. When a country decides it's going to destroy itself, nothing is going to prevent it. It's going to do that. Yeah, Mystic Werewolf, the world got crazier, and it's going to get even crazier. It's going to get... I am of the opinion that it's going to get, like, it's going to become a parody of itself. It's going to become lampoonish. That the people who are taking power and the people and the articles that are being published, dude, that Globe and Mail article that I just read is insane. This is insanity. Like, this article here, straight up, basically just, we can blow up whoever we want, and it's their fault. Like, basically straight up. Just wild. And, like, you got cartoon characters like this idiot getting elected in Argentina. It's going to be a cartoonish, just cartoonish. Oh, Tinker. Breaking. Israeli cabinet approves hostage deal with Hamas. PM office says temporary ceasefire. Big emphasis on temporary. And we've seen Israel over and over again make deals and then break them in order to spread terror. We've seen them do this constantly. Like, Oh, yeah, we're creating a humanitarian corridor. Bomb the humanitarian corridor. Oh, yeah, we're telling them to go to this location where they'll be safe. Bomb that. Right? They've done it over and over again. And so I suspect the same thing will happen here. Like, I don't know why we're, like, I do not believe for 1 second that the Israelis are going to honor this ceasefire. That what's going to happen is they're going to bring the hostages, or they're going to bring the kind of stuff, and they'll literally they'll do the exchange even, and then they'll watch the hostages go away, and then they'll just bomb those hostages. Like, that's what they're going to do. Like, watch it happen. Calling it now, right? Predictive moment right here. Label it. Put a thing on it. They're going to do the exchange, and then as the other group goes away, they're going to bomb that group or snipe them or do something to them. Right? Predicting now. And why am I making that prediction? Because it's how Israel has always acted. It's what they've always done every single time. I don't know why they'd suddenly stop now. Liberals ruin the left. Mystic, liberals are not on the left. Yeah. Purge from your thinking entirely that liberals are part of the left. Because they are not. Liberals are actually on the right of the political spectrum. That they support all of the same things conservatives do, right? The only difference between a liberal and a conservative is that a liberal has the wherewithal to seize power through deception, whereas a conservative feels he should be given power through his greatness, right? That a conservative will say, you're lazy, just stand up, it doesn't matter. What are you talking about? Race, skin color, who cares about history, all that kind of stuff. I'm the greatest, I'm the strongest, because I'm great and I'm the smartest. Vote me, right? That's a conservative. Well, a liberal is willing to say, like, there are historical circumstances where there has been people of privilege, myself included, who are part of the system of privilege. And I'm here to actually work within the system in order to help smooth that out and create a more egalitarian society. So please vote for me for the benefit of all. And then when he gets in, he basically acts like the conservative. Because he is a conservative. He just has the wherewithal to lie. Like, that's it. That's the difference between a conservative and a liberal. That fundamentally, they both agree that you should work for them, that they should own everything, that that they are in the position that they are in because they are better than you. And one's just willing to lie about it. That's why I actually think Pierre Poilievre is a liberal. Right? Because he's willing to lie about it. He's not willing to defend the system he actually believes in. He needs to lie to you about it. And he's a very effective liar, and he's doing a very good job of it. So that makes him more of a liberal than we've seen in a long time. It's been a long time since we've seen a liberal like this running the Conservative Party. But so the idea that liberals are on the left, what policy do they believe in? What puts them on the left? Right? Like, a leftist perspective is the abolishment of private property. There's a leftist perspective. Right? A leftist perspective is worker ownership. There's a leftist perspective. There's a leftist policy idea, right? Like a real egalitarian sort of thing. What liberal anywhere ever has ever called for anything like that? Oh yeah, Argentina turned into a South Park episode. Yeah. This is basically all you need to know. Like, this is essentially it. Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, has announced his intention to eliminate a slate of major government ministries, including health, transportation, women, education, science and technology, labor, and the environment. Like, all of this is going to get privatized. That's the point. And if he has his way, it's going to happen really fast. Right? Like, Argentina is going to turn into a shithole very fast. It's going to be very, very quick. Next time they attack the West, they're going to say they hate us for our democracy. I just don't think they're going to say anything, dude. You know what they're going to say? You know what they're going to say, Isaac? They're going to say, you have sadly reaped a whirlwind of consequences for the actions of those who unleash violence. They came and they unleashed violence. They've reaped a whirlwind of consequences. That's all they're going to say. They're not going to create a narrative that explains the situation. That from now forward, the way negotiations and debates and conversations are going to go is we are pure, sent by God. This land is ours. You're better off for us committing a genocide against you. And if you fight back against us at all, we will genocide you. And that's righteousness. And that's free speech. But if you stand up and say, maybe not, well, then you get suspended and banned and taken off and you lose your job. That's what's happening in today's society. They're not going to even come up with an excuse. They're not even going to say, oh, they're just lazy. They're upset. They're not even going to do any of that. It's literally, we have the money, the wealth, and the power to destroy them, and they dared stand up to us. Fuck them. We're going to destroy them. That's what we're getting now. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it. I just read this article to you. This is the new normal. This is the new normal. You understand? This is the new normal. Genocide is the new normal. Get on board. No more excuses. No more, oh, they hate us for our democracy, or they don't like our values, or any of that kind of stuff. Literally, they hit us. We bombed them. Fuck your history. History started today. And that's it. That's it. History starts now. That if we reference history, that's fine. But if you do it, get the fuck right out of here. Yeah, people, I want good standard of living, help, care, life satisfaction, liberals, but our democracy. Yeah. No, they won't say democracy. They'll say economy, right? They know who they work for. They know full well who they work for. Economy is code for the wealthy. When the economy is doing well, that means the wealthy are getting even richer. When the economy is doing poorly, that means the wealthy are not getting quite as rich. Meanwhile, life continues to get more difficult for the rest of us. That's who liberals work for. This is liberalism. Yeah, get to the gun. Also, it's come out recently that under Gaza there are oil reserves. Yeah, we have reported on that. Last week we were reporting on that. I'm waiting for better articles to be written about it. But yeah, it's not oil, it's natural gas, right? And part of the explanation, if you want to call it that, to try to rationalize why everyone's acting like the psychotic genocidal maniacs that they are, is that, hold on, this is great. I actually do have to bring up the map for this because it's really, really fucking funny, right? In the worst possible way, it's just the best, right? It's just like terror at the highest possible level, right? I don't know why my internet's acting so, like it's taking forever for anything to happen. I need to reset my computer. That's what it is. I need to reset my computer. That's what's happening. So. Or maybe it's all the CIA spooks watching me right now. Hi guys, how you doing? Hope you guys are doing terribly. I hope your kids hate you. Get a better job. So America starts a war in Ukraine by overthrowing the leadership of Ukraine, crossing a bunch of red lines, saying, we're going to turn this blue. They can join NATO. That's completely fine. Why is Moscow upset about it? Waka, waka, waka. What was the result of this war for Europe, right? Europe is no longer getting access to Moscow's natural gas, right? So they can't get access to natural gas. Everybody's suffering for it. Oh, hey, we just found a whole bunch of natural gas in the Gaza Strip. You know what we should do? We should clear that strip out, get that gas to solve a problem that we ourselves created. Yes. America. Like, you can't write this. Like, you can't write this. It's so fucking stupid. If they had to have done nothing in Ukraine, right? If they had have done just nothing, if they had looked at Ukraine and gone, yeah, let's do some trade with you, Ukraine, right? We're happy to do some trade. Moscow was saying, yeah, trade with them all you want. Like, trade is fine. Trade is peace, right? They cannot join NATO. And if America had gone, okay, you know what? It's reasonable to have a neutral zone between two gigantic, formerly at war, literally, like, within living memory, right? We all saw A Band of Brothers, right? They're still making movies about it, right? Quentin Tarantino made a movie about World War II, right? They're still making these movies, right? It's not ancient history. It's within our consciousness to this day. It makes sense to have a neutral zone between two former superpowers that were at war with one another that killed like 50 million people. Yeah, makes sense. Let's put a neutral zone there. Sure. Good. Great. They could have just gone, yeah, reasonable. Cool. And they would have been better off. They would have just been like, yeah, we'll just get your natural gas, right? Everybody will develop peacefully, right? No problems, right? Hey, Russia, why don't you join the G8? Hey, you know what? You applied to NATO? Sure, champ. Why not? Why not? Instead, we're going to do a big war here. We're going to lose access to natural gas from Moscow, and that's going to incentivize us to commit a genocide in Gaza for their gas. These people are fucking dumb. Like, they're psychos, right? That's obvious. They're completely psychotic, for sure. But they're also extremely stupid. Like, do you see how stupid that is? Right? Now, unless your logic is like, well, now we'll get that gas, and that gas will come into Israel, and then Israel will be rich. And they'll be rich by selling that genocide gas to Europe. And then that'll build up the force of Israel, and then we'll take the greater Israel, and we'll build a tunnel. We'll build a giant tunnel right through here. America, man. We're so great. It's so great. Like, it's so great that we have this just like absolutely insane, like lunatic group, right? Like, this is lunacy. Just like crazy. Crazy. What are you guys saying in the chat? What's going on? What's going on? Finds oil. America looks like someone needs democracy and freedom. That's right. America bringing the democracy and the freedom. Right. Cotton's like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I am not. Would I do that to you, Cotton? Absolutely not. We do nothing but we tell the truth here at the Canadian Commie. I will happily look at your evidence if you happily look at mine. Mystic, what liberals' obsession with Ukraine and Israel? They do know how right-wing those countries are, right? Yeah, I mean, like, no, Mystic, man, you know what I like about you? Here. What I like about you, my man, is that it's really, really clear that you are in like a learning phase, right? And I feel, and please correct me if I'm wrong, right? I feel like the reason why you keep coming back is that I feel like when you come in here, I tell you some shit and you learn something. And then you go out into the world and you observe it and you see that it is true, right? You see and you understand that it's true. And so you come back. Because wise people come back to people who have taught them something to see if they can learn something else, to see if they can continue learning. That's how you actually get better at doing this, especially, is you find the people who are right and you keep listening to them. And the people who were wrong, you cut out. right? That's why I don't listen to Fox, or that's why I don't listen to fucking like Peter Zahn or any of this shit. Like, I don't listen to these guys because they're always wrong, right? If you're professionally wrong, I'm not interested in what you have to say. That's why I listen to like John Mearsheimer. I'm like, yeah, he's right, and he's always right, right? And like, we can have minor disagreements. That's why I listen to somebody like Noam Chomsky. Like, Chomsky's right, and he's always right. Not always right, obviously, but like, he's more right than he's wrong. And when he's wrong, it's like subtle. It's not literally like 1 + 1 = potato. And if you disagree with that, we're going to send you to the Hague. Like and so I think that's why you keep coming back to me. So here's the lesson for you today, my man. Here's the lesson. Okay? Liberals are right-wingers. That liberals and conservatives are allies. That they work together. They work together in order to maintain the system of capital. Let me be real clear so that I hope it hits you, and I hope you see it, and I hope you carry it with you. The antagonism that liberals and conservatives have for one another is manufactured. It is WWE showmanship. It is done on purpose. That liberals and conservatives on all of the issues that actually matter are allies. On the issue of whether or not you should work for the system of capital, there is agreement. On the issue of your wages being suppressed, there is agreement. On the issue of taxes being cut for the rich, there is agreement. On the issue of going to war in foreign countries and stealing their resources, there is agreement. That any of the antagonism that exists within the media is intentional in order to get you to continue watching it. Because it's your participation in the game that gives it credibility. And if we all withdrew from that game and saw it for what it was, which is a WWE show put on to keep you entertained and keep you believing that what you're engaging in is politics, if like when Hulk Hogan comes out, the crowd goes wild. Healthcare for all. Yeah. Andre the Giant comes out. Healthcare for all is bad. Boo. Fight. A real legitimate fight happens. Seriously. And then something happens, usually something controversial, right? To keep everyone abuzz about it, talking about, oh, well, it was underhanded and someone come in and he cheated and there's, oh my God, can you believe what the ref got involved and he's a criminal too and all this. Well, okay, then the show ends, the audience leaves, the lights go out, the cameras turn off, and then Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant turn to one another, shake each other's hands, and they both get paid by Vince McMahon. Liberal, conservative. They're the same. That conservatives say woke, liberals say tanky. You've got MAGA, you've got blue MAGA. And they're the same. And so this false idea of separation, it exists only as something that is manufactured. And I actually make the point that liberals are worse than conservatives. Like, this whole spectrum thing doesn't really actually exist. It's just a way for us to sort of understand where people stand politically, but it's not real. It's not a real thing, right? That two men stand in front of you. One says, vote for me and I will punch you as hard as I can in the face. And the other one says, vote for me and I won't punch you at all. Well, you're going to pick this gentleman, the liberal, and then you vote for him, and the very first thing he does is he slugs you in the face as hard as he possibly can. At least with this guy, you knew what was going to happen. You could brace for it, you could prepare, and you knew what he was going to do. Liberals are worse than conservatives. Although conservatives pursue their objectives with more zeal than liberals. But in all cases, they're running a good cop, bad cop arrangement where liberal gets in, things maybe improve this much, like just like a little like click. Conservative gets in, click, click. Liberal, click. Conservative, click. And they're allies. There's no distinction. Doesn't matter if you vote for Biden or Trump. It's irrelevant. Blue or red. They're capitalists. Like, they're on the same team. They work towards the same objectives. And that includes people like Bernie Sanders, by the way. Like, Bernie Sanders, pro-genocide Bernie Sanders, right? 100%, let's go do a genocide in Israel, Bernie Sanders, right? He just played the Hulk Hogan role really well. And he really hit an issue that people really cared about. But people who commit genocides have no intention of helping anybody but themselves. He sold a bunch of books, right? Made some millions of dollars convincing people, hopey changey, right? Yeah, we can do it. Here's a bunch of stats and figures and things that I definitely care about. 100%. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we should do a genocide in Gaza for sure. Stand with Israel. Yeah, that's for sure going to happen, right? That for sure Bernie Sanders is going to run for office, and he's for sure going to get in, and for sure healthcare is going to happen, for sure. It's certainly not a grift that he's 100% running on you, right? And that the squad is running on you. Like, people who are willing to commit a genocide are not going to help you. Like, certainly not for free. They're not going to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. So, and it's tough to like keep that in your mind because the entire system is designed. And so I'm pretty forgiving on this point. The entire system is designed in order to convince you that there is a legitimate conversation happening when it's just a puppet show. It's not real. It is theater. It's fake. As fake as WWE wrestling is. It isn't politics. It's the appearance of politics. That if actual politics started to happen, they would just get rid of the system. If the people actually started to take hold of power and actually started to tell the capitalists what we actually intend to do, they would just get rid of the system and install some sort of puppet tin pot dictator. Probably a general, right? Someone like Petraeus or something. Universe 313. I'm so upset with you, man. You don't read the Twitch. I try to read the Twitch, but it's a bit, and you didn't notice until later. You only read YouTube chat. So butthurted, man. Well, you came to YouTube, didn't you? System works. The system works, Universe 313. That's a fun name, by the way, my man. Universe 313. I like it. I like it. Chris Hedges debated that academic elite servant, Robert Reich, and mopped the floor with him. I'm a bit sympathetic to Robert Reich because I view Robert Reich as someone who really did believe, and I do think this of him, I think that Robert Reich actually did believe that we could change the system from within, because I think he just misunderstood the character of the society that he lived in. I think that he just misunderstood, and this is common. This is true even amongst communists, I think. That, like, my major critique of communists generally is that they misunderstand the character of the ruling class. That they think that the ruling class is capable of compassion or empathy. That they actually think the ruling class can just be negotiated with. That they think that the ruling class will just be like, they'll see the data and go, oh, you know what, you're right. Like, for sure, this helps people. You're totally right. Oh man, the economics is completely in line. Like, they completely misunderstand the character of the ruling class. The character of the ruling class is psychotic, spreading suffering for their own pleasure on purpose. That's the character of the ruling class. They cannot be negotiated with. They cannot be negotiated with. That what we are doing is not building power so that we can negotiate with them. We are building power to tell them what's going to happen. And if they'd like to be around to watch it, they'll say, yes, okay, good. That's the only time the working class has ever gotten concessions from these crazed, lunatic, genocidal maniacs. Never once in the history of mankind has the ruling class, especially not a ruling class as rapaciously psychotic as this one, said, we should do something to help people. Nope, doesn't happen. The peasants need to be outside the door with torches, pitchforks, storming the castle, guillotines raised, before the ruling class even goes, perhaps maybe we should think about something. So the idea that we're building power, yeah, we'll just negotiate with them. We'll just show them the right way. And that's Robert Reich. Well-meaning, well-educated, has had a change of heart over time, has sort of seen, I think, more clearly his position, but he's been a dupe the entire time. Like, and now I think he's basically just on the way out of reality, as we all face. And I think he sees that the best thing for him to do is just lay it out as clearly as possible. That he knows he's not the revolutionary, right? He knows that, I think. And I think there's a part of him that understands that that is what it's going to take, although I've never heard him articulate it. But what he is definitely doing is laying it out as clearly as one can possibly lay out in the hopes that the revolutionaries will take it. That's what I think he's doing. And so I respect him. I respect Robert Reich for that. That he was not the revolutionary, but I think he always meant well. And the system is bigger than him. The system's way bigger than him. So I think that's sort of my take on Robert Reich. You know, do I wish he was the revolutionary, and do I wish he did have that kind of? Sure. But that's not how it was. That's not how it is. What communists think the ruling class can be negotiated with? Sockdems don't count. Like, there's a trope, I think, Watson, like Stalin, for example, right? Stalin, the phrase that has kind of become somewhat popular is Stalin should have killed more people, has become something of a trope when it came to Stalin. It's like, yeah, because I think Stalin sort of misunderstood the character of the ruling class and misunderstood the character of the Nazis. Like, sort of misunderstands the character of the kulaks. That people always like accuse him of being too firm or too far on the other side. I feel like he went pretty soft, frankly. He lays out the way the mess and gives many historical examples. Movements are the only thing that ever changed anything. Early 20th century labor structures. Yeah. I'm a big Hedges fan. Yeah. No, I really think that debate that debate between Hedges and Reich was fairly constructive. I thought. Like I do. I think that they had a pretty good conversation. I think that they both were respecting one another, which is pretty rare in the discourse. And I think that I do think that Hedges educated Reich in the end. I think Reich came away feeling a bit thumped, but I think he came away feeling thumped in a good way, if you understand what I mean. That like, you know what? I think this Hedges guy is correct. I think that there's something right there. And like, yeah. Anyway, that's enough about Robert Reich. Robert Reich trying his best. That's what I would say. That would be the big banner over Robert Reich. Trying his best. Like, doesn't have the truth is that the guy's comfortable, right? Like it's tough to be a revolutionary if you're comfortable. Like really. Like if you're living in a nice house and you've got a nice car and you got a wife and kids and you got a job and it's all set out and all that kind of stuff. Well, what are you revolting for? Like the guy was like was an advisor to presidents, for God's sakes. Like I mean this is not a revolutionary, right? I'm seeing your stream through Twitch and chatting through YouTube. Hey man, whatever makes it happen for you, Universe 313. I assume as a universe that you are all seeing and all encompassing. So Bernie tells a speech and gets visited by a white bird, a beautiful image of hope and optimism, and now this. Oh, sorry, Content, when you said the universe had a fucked up sense of humor, I thought that you were talking about Universe 313. I was like, does he? What'd he say? Yeah, the universe does have a fucked up sense of humor, right? Bernie tells a speech, gets visited by a white bird, a beautiful image of hope and optimism, and now we should do a genocide in Israel. Israel's the place where we should genocide those Palestinians, I'm telling you. Thinking that you can negotiate a solution with the oligarchs is like a chicken thinking you can find diplomacy with a hungry wolf. Yeah. That's as fine an analogy as exists. You mentioned that there is gas in Gaza, but isn't that the gas in Gaza is incomparable to the gas the Russians have, right? Yeah, definitely. Like I mean, you just like it does. You don't need a big like. Do we really need to have a big conversation about like? Maybe a landmass of this size that has like a pretty big oil reserves off the coast of Crimea, probably has access to more natural gas than, probably. But I look, like we are going into a fossil fuel decline, whether you like it or not, right? As they're going to squeeze every last drop out of this rock. Right, they're going to frack everything and they're going to rip it all out and they're going to drain it out with straws if they've got to. Right, they're going to do everything they can do to get as much oil as they can, and we go into a fossil fuel decline. Why? Because we run out of it. It's a non-renewable resource. Right, we run out of this thing, but before we do that, we're going to see these guys do the dumbest shit you've ever seen in your life and in maybe human history. These guys are going to be like monkeys clinging on to bananas, just screeching at the top of their lungs. The president of the United States is going to be Kanye West. Like, that's how this is going to go. Like, you understand? Like, do you understand how dumb it's going to get? Do you understand how stupid and ridiculous and humiliating it's going to be a Westerner in these next 20 years? We're literally going to have like President Lauren Boebert. It's going to be just like, I'm the president of the United States of America. God bless America. Here we are at Jeff Bezos' Institute of Fracking Oil for Life. And we've got a plan to blow up the moon. Like, it's going to be like that. It's going to just be dumb, moronic, insane, crazy lunatics, right? Yeah. It's going to be dumb, moronic, crazy, insane lunatics abandoning the society completely. Like, warlordism is going to come back. Like, I just don't think people understand how dumb and kooky it's going to get. Like, each one of these little states is going to turn into like a little warlord fiefdom, right? There's going to be like private militaries and private police, that the American military itself will fall into a degradation and degrade. And a lot of those people are going to become private contractors, because that's what they actually do. They become private contractors. And who are they going to private contract out to? Elon Musk, Gates, Buffett, right? Like the warlordism is going to return. And as the water wars start kicking in, right? Colorado is going to try to, like, this fucking river. You understand how many wars are going to get fought over this fucking river? The Colorado River? You understand how many wars are going to get fought over that? What happens if somebody tries to dam it? What happens if somebody starts to siphon water off of it? What happens if somebody, like what if Colorado just says, yeah, we're just going to start siphoning water out of this. Too bad, Utah, Nevada. Tough shit. Like, tough shit. Get fucked. We don't care. Fuck you. So no water for them anymore. Like, this is the shit that's coming. And it's just going to be lunacy. And it's going to be stupid. Because it's going... And this is the part that's the best. This is the best part. It's going to be so much more costly. It's going to be so much more costly for America and for its citizens and for the people. And even for the ruling class. It's going to cost them so much more money. It's so much more wealth. It's going to be so much more taxing. So much more to do it this way than it is to just like, hey, maybe we should just have some basic egalitarian principles, right? Real rudimentary shit, right? Basic little kid, small scale shit, right? Everybody should have access to food and shelter. What do you think? Right? No? Oh, okay. I guess we're just in a perpetual infinite fist fight for basic resources then. Oh, okay. Greatest society of all time. End of history, right? Capitalist realism. Capitalism is human nature. You can never get away from it, right? Like, it's going to collapse. Like, it's going to, like, big moments are coming. Big, juicy moments that are just going to be dumb, and the people who are in charge of it are going to be the stupidest people. Like when Elon Musk bought Twitter and walked in with a sink, except it's a country. You understand? That's what we're talking about. Like, Elon Musk is just going to walk into the White House with a sink. Oh my God, yeah. But don't Qatar have infinitely more than Gaza? Yeah, I mean, like, Qatar is like, it's where all the rich people are. The United Arab Emirates. Dude, like, this is how much money these guys have. Where exactly is it? Yeah, there it is. This is how much money these guys have. Right? Right? You can see that from space. Right? Like, they built that. And terrain? Traffic. Like, no, we can't possibly have money to help the poor. We can't help the poor and the needy and the destitute. We don't have the wealth or the power or the prestige to do any of that. No. We've got to build Palm Jebel Ali. It's very important that we build this thing off the coast. Makes total sense. In fact, we're going to make 2 of them. Yes, here's the second one. Oh, the World Islands. Right? Makes complete and total sense that we've enriched people this way. Makes complete and total sense. Like, we should ban... This is why I genuinely argue. I genuinely say out loud all the time, and you guys have heard me say it constantly, that wealth over $1 million, wealth held, income, I don't care, whatever stat you want to plug that into, pick it, I don't give a shit. $1 million, everything over that's taxed away at 100%. And I don't give a shit if you earned it. I don't give two shits at all. I don't care if Ted Bundy earned his kill. I don't care. Too bad. Fuck off. No one can earn the ability to own a society. Tough. You wouldn't accept it if it was a king. You wouldn't accept it if it was an emperor. You wouldn't accept it if it was a chieftain. I don't understand why you would suddenly accept it if it was a CEO. Too fucking bad. Wealth over $1 million taxed away at 100%. Like, you get your $1 million. That means you got a nice house, you got a nice car, you can fuck all the prostitutes you want, right? But you don't get a Jeffrey Epstein pedophile island. You can't buy Congress, right? Too bad. Fuck off. It's over. And I think that that's actually like a centrist rational position. I think that's actually the reasonable position. We let everybody stay alive. We don't form a militia group. We don't shoot them in their beds. We let them live with money. Seems extremely reasonable. Extremely reasonable. Balkanization of the USA can only be a net positive. I mean, it's not going to be a net positive. Like, it isn't actually. Like, this is what sucks about it, is that, like, it is actually better to have federated nations. Like, it's better. There's a reason why we do it. There's a reason why it happens. There's a reason why countries federate. Because it's better. It's so fucking crazy that the ideology that took hold in the United States was individualism. Like, really think about how fucking dumb that is. Everything's better if all the states come together and we work collectively as a unit, but you better get to work on time. Like, collectivization is obviously what we do as humans. Like, you want to talk about human nature? Well, collectivization is what we do, and we like it. Pretty clearly, and there's good, powerful, strong reasons. Stability is a big one. Stability is a big one. Very rare for federated bodies to actually go to war with itself, right? There are examples. You have civil wars and things like this, right? But usually civil wars are smaller in scale, right? That international conflicts between federated bodies are usually worse in large measures. So you want countries to be federated. You want territories to be federated, right? You want them to have a presiding ruling body. You want that. Like, stability is good. Stability is good. That, like, there's a reason why China keeps talking about, like, Xi Jinping isn't standing up being like, yeah, we're the greatest. We're here to dunk on America. Fuck you, America. We're the new hegemon. We rule this place and you suck, America. China. There's a reason why it's not doing that. You know what China's actually saying? Hey, we understand that you have internal conflicts, as we have internal conflicts. We hope to trade and facilitate growth together cooperatively. We have no interest in being a hegemon. Like, that's what China's saying. You know why? Because the United States that fractures as it's going to, a United States that fractures and breaks is chaos. It's going to be total fucking chaos, guys. Like, it's kind of nice to be like, ha ha, fuck you, America, ha ha, stick it in your eye, ha ha. But like, Christian gun cult, bullet crown. Yeah, this will do it. Like, the groups that are going to arise and gain prominence in the society because of the fracturing in America are going to be insane. They're going to be lunatic cults. Like, because of the nature of how our media works, the media really exists. One of the big things that the media does is try to, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Like, everything's fine. We're putting walls on the discourse. Boom, walls on the discourse. So everything past this line is crazy, and of course that's drifting right towards fascism, obviously, because they all work for these people. But they put a barrier on it, so they're not going to spread this around too much, right? That you've got literal like gun cults where they go to church and they're holding like AR-15s while they're praying. Are the pictures actually not loading up? Hold on. Like straight up bullet crown of bullets. And we're all just supposed to be like, that's normal. Of course. Here we go. Crown of bullets. Normal culture, normal society, being super normal all the time. You want this guy to become the leader of like Utah? This is the guy that you want to be the governor of Utah or whatever title they're going to give themselves, the Grand Chancellor of Utah. Like, as crazy as it seems right now, it can and it will get crazier. Like the nutty bullshit. Just like wait until Dan Crenshaw has real power. Like wait until there's some real fucking power with these guys. It's just gonna go nuts. And all the dumb, crazy shit that they've been doing over here for the last 20 years, this little training simulator they've been running, they're gonna bring it all home. They're bringing all of it home. And and the way that they acted over here is exactly how they're gonna act here. Right? That's why this genocide is so dangerous. Because if that's what they're willing to do there, they're for sure going to do that in like Atlanta or Georgia or something. They're for sure. Why do you think Cop City is such a threat? Right? What do you think Cop City's for? Like, Cop City is to commit a genocide against a people. That's what it's for. That's the only reason you do it. There's no reason to build a Cop City outside of like, oh, hey, we've got 10,000 cops. We can just send them over here and wipe these people out. That's the reason you build it. That's the purpose of it. As Jesus said, best be packing. Fucking absolutely. Yeah, this cult is the Korean Falun Gong, yeah. Chinese development does not pose a threat to any countries, Xi said. No matter how far China develops, it will never seek hegemony. Well, because it's a lost... It's just a stupid idea. Like, hegemony is a dumb idea. Like, the idea that I'm the best. And I have the right to stick my finger in all these pies and get in everybody's business and tell them how to live. Like, it's a failed ideology that doesn't work. You lose all your wealth trying to do it. Don't. Straight up don't. Just like look at what other countries are doing and be like, that is unfortunate. But you're going to figure it out. We're not going to lose all our wealth and power and prestige and status to police you. It's not going to happen. Wait, are you saying this would lead to the free fall of the American... Oh, dude, the American Empire is in free fall. Like, the American Empire is in free fall. And I'll explain it to you right now, Universe 313. Okay? Real straightforward. It's really easy to see. Once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. And it's happening in front of you, okay? So for the last 60, 70 years, the Americans have had what's called dollar hegemony, right? They shipped their entire manufacturing base over to China and other places. It's not just China, but mainly China. So China would make all their stuff because capitalists are illiterate. They don't understand how capitalism actually works. And so they decided to look at a country that was saying we should seize the means of production and sell it to them. The United States has been producing nothing for a long time now. A long, long time. So how has the United States maintained its power on the world stage? Through dollar hegemony, okay? It prints dollars and it says to South America, China, Africa, Europe, Russia, it says, we will trade goods to you for dollars. So I print money out of thin air or type numbers into screens, right? So I do nothing that matters at all. And then I get to give you that in exchange for stuff, for food, for manufactured goods, for resources, right? Real sweet deal. How has America been getting away with it? Well, since World War II, they have created what they call an international community, which really is just the United States, Europe, and Australia, and Canada. And they basically have enforced an idea that you can only trade through those international systems. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, these large international systems. So if Brazil wants to trade bananas with, let's make it as simple as Argentina. Like if Brazil and Argentina want to trade bananas for coconuts, let's say, they've got to go through the International Monetary Fund, they've got to go through the World Bank, and they have to trade on dollars, right? If Venezuela wants to sell its oil to Saudi Arabia or Egypt, let's say, it needs to trade on the dollar. So they need to trade in dollars, right? Well, since 2008, essentially, since 2008 and the financial collapse of the United States that happened in 2008 because of their dumb fuckery, because they're too stupid to understand their own system, China, India, Russia, South Africa, and I'm missing one, Brazil, have all been negotiating with one another in an informal trade alliance that has been called BRICS. The BRICS alliance, which now Saudi Arabia and a bunch of other people and most of Africa are trying to get on board with. Well, what they're doing is they're creating a trade agreement that trades off the dollar, right? They're trading off the dollar. Okay? So they're trading resources with one another in won, renminbi, ruples, basically anything that isn't dollars. Well, what's this going to do? And what has this been doing already to the American dollar? It's going to plummet its value. Because America is going to go out into the world. It's going to say, hey, who wants my dollars? And South America, Africa, India, China, Russia are all going to say, no, we don't need them. They don't really buy anything. And then they're going to look at America and they're going to say, hey, what is it that you do? What is it that you make? What is it that you manufacture? What is it that you create? And America creates two things only: war and propaganda. That's the only thing it produces. It's the only thing it makes. It turns out countries aren't really buying. So what is this going to do as we move forward? So and it's already beginning to happen. This failed war in Ukraine where we spent billions of dollars for nothing. Literally lost resources over it. Now we're spending billions of dollars on a genocide over here. Losing even more prestige. Losing even more connection in the world. The entire world looking at us realizing these guys are Nazis. And we are. So China and Russia and all these places are going to trade with each other off the dollar and tell us to go fuck ourselves. Right? They'll say it nicely. They'll be like, we hope to cooperate in the future. Right? They'll be diplomatic because they're better than us. And so what's going to happen? Well, the United States is going to not be able to actually afford its military adventurism any longer. It's going to not be able to pay the bills in serious ways. It's not going to have the wealth to be able to do it. Oh, did I say ruples? Hilarious. Rupees. Thank you. They're not going to be able to pay the bills. So what are they going to have to do? Well, they're going to have to raise taxes. They have no alternative. There is no alternative. If they would like to keep the lights on, right? So outside of withdrawing from all these military bases, right, which they don't want to do, right? They don't want to do that. They got military bases covering all of this. Thanks for the donation, Generation Y Me, bud. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles. Please consider donating. Tell people I exist. Thank you, Generation Y Me. Rupees is also the currency in Zelda. Correct. This might as well be a fantasy world. So, they're going to have to raise taxes because they don't manufacture anything. They don't trade anything. They don't create anything of value to anyone except little pieces of paper that nobody wants anymore. The value of the currency is going to plummet. So they're going to have to start withdrawing military force and military bases. Huge threat to Israel, by the way. But they're not going to want to. So they're going to try to raise taxes. Well, thank you, Bex. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Thank you so much. Well, the billionaire class is notorious for not wanting there to be taxes, right? So what's going to happen? So Elon Musk is the best one to use. He's one of the richest. He lives in Texas. Texas is already pretty crazy in the first place. Elon Musk is going to say, well, I don't want to be taxed. I don't want to pay taxes. I want to keep my money. I earned it. And so he's going to start an independence movement in a place that's already pretty sympathetic to independence movements. And he's going to turn to the working class and say, hey, this federal government is taxing your money away, and what are you getting for it? You don't get any health care. You don't get any support. You don't get any social services. And yet we're spending billions of dollars on a genocide over here and a failed war over here. You know what we should do? We should split. And the interests of the working class, the interests of the billionaire class will align. And they'll literally vote for independence, just like Brexit, right? And it can happen in California. It can happen all throughout the southern states. Most states already have an independence desire of about 30%, even in democratic states. And the thing I think to really remember as I'm finishing this point up is that everything I just said here, that America is coming to the end of an empire. The empire is ending. Well, when empires end, they balkanize. That everything I just said right here is not far crazy, kooky, radical nonsense. It's what happens when empires decline. When Ligon to Z, take your fake numbers on the screen. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I do. I know that the numbers are fake. I know it's all fakey fake, but the system says they're not. So until such time, thank you guys. I do appreciate it. I really do. Thank you so much. When the British Empire collapsed, it balkanized. When the Roman Empire fell, it balkanized. When the Chinese Empire fell, rebuilt, and fell, and rebuilt again, it balkanized. When empires decline, they balkanize. It's predictable. It's the most likely thing to happen. And the way it's going to look initially is it's going to look like the United States receding its military power and being unable to project its power overseas any longer. It's already sitting down with China and trying to talk truce, right? Remember when Biden said that Xi Jinping is still a dictator and we got these fun memes with Blinken? Well, why was Blinken responding this way? Because they're in truce talks. Because they're trying to not go to war with China. Because they know they can't afford it. And they know that a war with China will only increase the speed at which America falls into decline. Balkanize means for a federated body to break apart. That's what it means. So technically, when when Britain left the EU, that was a sign of balkanization of the EU. Where did the term come from? You know what, bud? What a great question. Balkanize etymology. I love looking up the etymology of words. I highly advise that people actually do this. Divide a region or body into smaller, mutually hostile states or groups. Ambitious neighbors would snatch pieces of territory, balkanizing the country. That's one example of it. Here we go. Oh, yeah, the Balkan Wars. Yeah. Perhaps I'm misusing the term, actually. It's possible that I am. That balkanization could be used as an external force stealing pieces. And I'm using it as a country breaking apart. So I could be misusing it. And that would be a learning moment. Always take them. To divide into small and mutually hostile groups as the political condition of the Balkans. Well done. Well done, guys. My chat did it. It is said to have been coined by the English editor James Lewis Garvin, but A.J. Toynbee credited it to German socialists, describing the results of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Either way, the reference to the political situation in the Balkans, 1878 to 1913, when the European section of the Ottoman Empire melted into a small, warring nations. Balkanized and balkanization are both from the 1920s. No, I think I'm using it correctly. Yeah, I'm using it correctly. A section of a larger federated body breaking off. They're using it to describe a phenomenon where it breaks off and falls into war, but I don't think that that's necessarily part of it. So, there you go, universe. There you go, universe. That's my big... To answer your initial statement, what did you say? This would lead to the free fall of the American empire? Yeah. And I really want to reaffirm this. I really want to say this. And I need to say this out loud. And I need to really land on it so that people really understand. When I'm saying these things, if you are thinking to yourself, that sounds like kooky nonsense, it's the most common thing to happen. It's the most likely. That maybe it won't. Maybe for one time in human history, an empire will fall into decline, and the countries and the provinces and the states within it will stay within the federated body. Maybe. Okay, it is possible. Anything's possible. Okay, it's never happened. Every time empires fall, they break apart. Every time. That it starts with the colonies. That they recede, independence movements begin to happen within the colonies, right? They separate, and then finally it begins to fail internally, right? Pays to remember, like the Roman Empire used to be all this shit, just used to spread all through there. Not anymore. Why not? They all broke off. Rome lost its ability to administrate power. It lost its ability to project power. That will happen with America. And my guess is that the Union, right? Like America, the United States of America will always remain as a idea, as a legal force, right? In the same way that the monarchy exists in Britain. But it'll just be smaller. It'll just kind of recede back, and it'll be like New York. Like New York will be the Washington will be the cultural center, and New York will be the economic center. Although New York will also be underwater, so we'll see. But and all of that is happening in real time, right in front of your face. Isn't it going to be great? Isn't it going to be great? Isn't it going to be great to watch it all happen? Aren't you so happy that you come here every week and we all have a lovely little discussion about how the country we are living in is falling into this rapid decline, and that we all get to watch it happen. And then also climate change. Maybe Pittsburgh becomes the economic center. Bro, that would be amazing. Fucking like Philadelphia. Watching the Imperial core sink. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, it does sound great. I think the world will be better off for it. Because when I look into the world, I think the reason why this channel is gaining in prominence and success is that I actually look at the rest of the world with respect. Right? I actually care about what's happening in the rest of the world. Like, China is being very prosperous and is looking pretty stable. And there's a lot of hope in China, and there's a lot of good things happening in China, right? The shift that's occurring in Africa, the shift away from the colonial powers towards China, the conversation that's happening within Africa, their concern about whether or not China is going to become a new colonizing power is legitimate and something that we should be aware of, right? China could definitely turn this corner, right? Like right now, China looks like we're just trading. It's all peaceful, all that kind of stuff. They can turn the corner. They can. And they could become a huge imperial power. They can, right? So we should be here to look at it and see if that's true or not. Because the Americans are definitely going to say it, right? As the American power falls, they're going to say it. They're going to be like, China is an imperial power. Are they? And India is so interesting, right? India's position in the world is the world keeps trying to tie them to countries, and they are literally like saying to your face over and over again, we are going to do what's right for India. Like they are outright like standing there with their vote in Survivor being like, my vote is up for grabs. But what's interesting about that position is that China respects it. Like, that's what's so interesting about China is that as they're ascending as a power, like America is like, you're either with us or against us. Hey, we're going in there with or without you. Hey, from the gut, from the hip. Yeah, forget about rules and laws. We make the law. Ha, here, ha. Right? Whereas China's like, what I really respect about China is that America says, we're the greatest country in the world, so you better be American like us. Yeah. Whereas China says, we're the greatest country in the world, so keep away. Fuck off. I rather like that about them. That they're like, yeah, we're amazing. We're the greatest. You go work on yourself. It's fine. You be amazing too over there. India is falling into communalist nationalism under Modi. Dude, I got to tell you straight up, I'm not willing to label Modi. I think that we're only going to be able to label Modi after, when he dies. Because can I tell you what I think of Modi? I think that Modi is an opportunist. That's what I think of Modi. I think that Modi knows what's good for Modi. Modi knows that politics is about popularity, and Modi is going to do things that are popular in order to get popularity. I think that's the basis of his system of thought. Like I don't think he really like there's no like Modiism, you know what I mean? Like there's no like Modi thought. You know? He's just kind of freewheeling and dealing most of the time. I don't see much by way of institutional power. I don't see much by way of structural power. I don't see him building really much of anything that's going to last too much longer after he dies. I think he's basically just a guy with a fat wallet handing out money. And that by itself makes me like him. You know what I mean? Like, it makes me like think like, oh, okay, like here's a guy that kind of understands, like, yeah, if I was in a position of power, if suddenly the forces of the universe aligned and suddenly somehow like Elon Musk was clutching his chest and had a pen in his hand and was like, I leave all my money to Jonathan Sanderson, the Canadian commie. And somehow all of his money just blindsided me out of the blue, right? I would 100%. You know what I would do with it? And I'm challenging the universe with this, by the way. Hey, universe, I challenge you. Make me rich. See if it's true. I would walk around with a basket. I would take $1,000 in ones to make it real nice and thick, real big and juicy, right? $1,000 in ones. Maybe tens. I'm not a madman, but a big wad, $1,000, and I would have a basket of them. Right? I would hire someone to do this so that I could walk around and just hand it to people. Be like, hey, you want $1,000? This is $1,000. Would you like it? How about you? $1,000? Would you like it? And I would just walk up to people in the streets. And I'd just be like, I have $1,000. Do you want it? And they would be like, And if somebody came up to me with like a gun and was like, give me that basket, I'd be like, yeah. Put the gun away. I don't need it. Like, there you go. And then I would go back to my big giant truck full of money with guards and shit, and I would get more money. I would just walk around handing the money out. Like, here you go. Here you go. Yep. What do you want? What do you want? And if somebody was like, can I have two? I'd be like, yeah. I would just give money away on the street all the time, constantly. I would walk across Canada. Like, you understand? I would walk across Canada with a basket here, just handing money to people. It's all I would do all day long, and I wouldn't do anything else. And if anybody came up to me and were like, don't you want to invest your money? I would say, I am. You're just too stupid to realize it. And I would give them $1,000 and tell them to fuck off. Just walk around, handing money out. The fact that these guys are not doing any of that, the fact that Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, all of these guys are not just walking around handing money out all day tells me that they're ghouls. Because it's the only thing I would do. I would love it. I would love it. I would do it all day. I would do it constantly. They'd have to tell me to stop. I'd have to intentionally set a deadline to stop doing it so that I could eat, shit, and sleep. That's what I would do all day long, and I would sing while I was doing it. I would love it. It'd be the greatest existence. It'd be the best life ever. And if Modi is doing even 1% of that, then he's all right. And it seems to me that's basically what he's doing. Just walking around being like, yeah, here, take some money, have some, yeah, here you go. You need to, sure. Right? And if somebody says you can't do that, he goes, yeah, sure I can. And so if that makes him communalist, nationalist, okay. I just don't think there's an ism for that. I just think it's just, I don't know. Like, he's sort of sitting there being like, I could probably make things better, and I don't want to deal with these assholes. I'm just going to hand money out. Damn, do I ever wish I could do that. Do I ever wish I could do that? I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again. And I'll keep saying it in the hopes that it actually manifests. Is manifestation real? Stay tuned. We're going to find out. I want the universe to make me a millionaire or billionaire, if it's so inclined, so that I can just walk around giving people money. That's really it. Like, I'm okay with living in a small apartment. I'm okay. Like, a small apartment's great, or a condo or whatever. I don't need a lot. I'm a minimalist. I don't like a lot of stuff. I find it to be really a pain in the ass. And I don't really want a car. Just filling out the paperwork for insurance alone. Oh my God. I guess I need one though, given my plan. And I'll definitely need a basket. And then to just walk around. Nah. If I'm a billionaire walking around giving money, they're not going to arrest me. They're not going to arrest me. I'm a billionaire. They're not going to arrest a billionaire. I'm literally going to look at them and be like, really? You want to kick this up? I've got so much money that I can hand it out to people on the streets. What do you think I could do to you? Yeah, dude, honestly, if I was like walking across Canada and handing money out to people, and any politician at any place at any time said you can't do that, I would literally fund a campaign against that guy. I would straight up just be like, hey, you seem like a good person. Do you want to be the mayor? Yeah, here's $1 million. Go kill that guy. Like, not literally, but like, go, like, he's not the mayor anymore. You're the mayor. Get him. I actually think in Canada that is a crime. I don't think you can just give $1 million to somebody. There's like a whole electoral thing. Since you are saying this like so genuinely, you will be a millionaire. Inshallah. Let's see, man. Let's see. The universe is a strange and peculiar place, and strange and peculiar things can happen. I just know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the only way to inoculate your soul from the accumulation of wealth is to give it away. That's all I know. That if I ever find myself in a position in life where my bank account hits 6 digits, right? 7 digits, I'm going to be like, oh, okay. So I'm already corrupted. That the number on the screen is not a measurement of success, it's a measurement of corruption. And so I need to get that number down. I need to get that number down as fast as possible. Because what's so insidious about the change is it can happen so gradually and you can always justify it. And so I just say to myself, nah, I'll just look at the number and be like, that number's got to go down. And that's it. I won't think any further than that. That number's just got to go down. And I know exactly how to do it. You want some money? Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. And if somebody comes up to me and says, aren't you worried they'll spend it on drugs? I'll say no. So, well, what if they do spend it on drugs? I'll be like, okay. I don't care. You want $1,000? Yeah, Resist Occupier says there's going to be a 4-day ceasefire. Israel breaks it on day 2. There. That's my prediction. All right, guys. This is the end of it. I'm a little over. I'm glad that I'm ending this one smiling. That's nice. God damn. I do hope I hope it happens. I do. I hope I become super rich and famous. Not famous. I don't give a shit about fame. I hope I become super rich and I can like literally film myself talking to you guys handing out money. That'd be great. That's the real life right there. That's the best. That'd be so amazing. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.